Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast, and as you can see, Rukshan, not like the rest of us, on holidays, living his best life, and I think there was a lot of people in the comments questioning whether he was really in Sri Lanka, so he decided to go out. Yeah, so he decided to go somewhere where it looks like, yeah, he's definitely in Sri Lanka. The internet looks about as Sri Lankan as I expect. How's the holiday going, mate?
It's good. It's a working holiday. I must correct you there. I am actually working as well, as you can see, doing these shows as well. So it's not a pure holiday as such. But yeah, I'm outdoors in Sri Lanka. I'm probably going to turn into water during this stream because it's actually very hot out here. I'll just show you my surroundings. Actually, I can flip my camera. You can see we got like banana. It's almost like a banana plantation next to me. It's not. It's just someone's backyard, but it's just full of banana trees. I got passion fruit trees behind me. So yeah, Sri Lanka is very lots of fruit, lots of stuff grows here. It's very nice, but yeah, it's very hot. And where I am is actually very poor mobile phone coverage. So I'm doing the best that I can with the setup that I have to actually be able to do this today.
Well, there is a whole heap of comments and a whole heap of issues to talk about today. We have a packed show. Glad that you're here to actually join us and to help make your trip a tax write-off. We're glad we can help each other. This is a win-win. That was a very long silence between. Guys, just some house rules as usual.
I did not even think of that. I did not even think of that. Trust you to come up with a specific scenario.
I am a Jew after all. Welcome to the 1758 of you that are currently across our platforms, and we've had some really good live streams recently. So, guys, it's up to you guys to share it, get involved in the conversation, especially on the chat. So, what you're seeing below are the chats from both mine and Rukshan's YouTubes, and all the super chats. We will read them out, and we appreciate it in advance. I think last time we hit 50 super chats, so let's try beat that 50. And let's get on with the show, eh?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get on.
Well,
I hope I last the whole show. If I don't, Avi, I will ring back. I will somehow find a way to ring back.
If it doesn't, we may not let you back in. But just in case, we've got a special guest, Drew Pavlo, because whenever we're talking anything ultra-left, we need Drew there. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thank you for having me on, guys. And I want to say I'm against Zohran, so I don't want to be lumped in with him.
I'm not sure why you're against him, but look, people don't know yet what we're talking about, so let's get straight into it.
A self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist has won the Democratic Party's primary in a high-profile race for the mayor of New York City. It comes amid months of soul-searching for the Democrats over the party's future. For more on this, we're joined by America's editor, John Lyons. John, this is a pretty extraordinary story. It's not often that there's so much attention on a mayoral primary. What sort of things do you think the Democrats might be taking away from this?
Well, James, I think the lesson here is just how broken the Democrats really are, how out of touch they are. They recycle Andrew Cuomo, was there, the person they backed. He's 67. He left office in 2021 with 11 sexual harassment charges hanging over his head. 11. He denies them. But then they recycle this guy because he's from Democrat, a dynasty of Mario Cuomo, his father, and so forth. Instead, through the middle has come this 33-year-old Zohran Mamdani. He would be the first Muslim to be mayor of New York if he's elected in November in the general election. He describes himself as a democratic socialist. He's Palestinians. He's a vocal critic of Israel's war in Gaza, which is described as cruel, indiscriminate, limitless, and a criminal killing of civilians. And he wants free public transport. He wants to put rent controls. And so this 33-year-old, even though Bill Clinton was wheeled out again to try to get support for Andrew Cuomo, I think the message here, and I think the Democrats in America are in such a sorry state. They really are broken. And what's happening in New York, I think, shows that. What they need fresh, energetic people with different ideas who are in touch with the community on rent, on transport. And basically, this guy has shown it. Doesn't matter how much money has been pumped into the Cuomo campaign, all the saturation ads, bringing out Bill Clinton. Sorry, Zohran Mamdani has come up through the middle.
It's extraordinary also how much attention this has captured through the United States and even further afield. I mean, social media is ablaze toys with it here in Australia too. What are Republicans making of these developments, do you think?
Well, Donald Trump has actually just put out some comments.
We don't need to hear the ABC's position on it. Well, how are you guys feeling? Firstly, Rukshan, how do you feel about your cousin potentially becoming the mayor of New York?
Well, my cousins have already dealt a blow to London, so now it's New York's turn. But look, this is the inevitability of where things are headed, I think, in most Western countries. Of course, New York is far more ahead of us in terms of being this heartland of progressivism. Thanks to someone like AOC, we've seen her come up the ranks in New York. And I read this comment online where it said, you thought AOC was it. You thought she was the craziest you're going to get, and she was just the appetizer. So we have this guy now, Zohran, and he seems even more, in terms of being a socialist, and some of his other views as well. I know you can't really call him a hardcore Islamist because of the way that he carries himself, and perhaps the way he observes that type of religious doctrine in his life. But we've seen when these type of candidates end up being leaders in these type of big cities, they do transformative changes that completely changes the dynamic of those towns. And
you can say destroys the city. They talk about what do they call them? What do they call these cities? It's like San Francisco. What do they call? They have a term for it. Not safe cities. What is that?
Sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities.
And that's what he says he's going to do there, where it ends up just completely destroying the city. And we're going to look. I've got a bunch of his videos, different parts of his political worldview. But I think you hit the nail on the head. He's not really a jihadi. He's more of a queers for Palestine, even though he's a Muslim. I don't think he's actually practicing. But he certainly knows the irony between the two. But it doesn't faze him. It looks like it's almost kind of, I think, the mistake that if you look at Iranian history, the Shah, when he tried to kind of, he was a Muslim that was trying to do a little bit and to appease the Islamists, and then the Islamists ended up, because he thought that he could control the Islamists, and then the Islamists ended up eating him up. I think you might have something similar to that in New York. But what do you reckon, Drew? Are you happy with your choice?
Look, I'm not happy at all. I've said that I think Democrats should support Eric Adams at this point, even though the man was accused of corruption. Obviously, that's not good. But just Zohran is so bad. He is a communist. He has openly sympathized with Marxist-Leninist communist groups in India. I think the Naxalites, Rukshan, which is pretty hardcore stuff. I think you're right. Look, there were some people on my post saying, this is Taqiyya. I don't think it's Taqiyya. I think he actually is basically like a secular, non-practicing Muslim. But I think he identifies with like Islamism as a kind of tribalistic type thing. It's interesting because if you look at like quite a lot of these politicians, if you look at like Ilhan Omar and stuff like that, these politicians, their political allegiances are basically with the Islamists. But if you actually look at their personal lives, it doesn't seem that they actually religiously practice, which is interesting. So I guess it's kind of like similar to maybe cultural Christians who maybe like aren't religious per se, but there's a very tribalistic element to it. And
this is actually him. I'll bring up the videos that are relevant as we go. This is him in a mosque recently in the lead up or during the campaign.
Alhamdulillah, there are 1 million Muslims in this city. 200,000 of us are registered to vote as Democrats. In the last election, only 7% of us voted. Now, I will not blame anyone because often it feels like there isn't much to vote for. But this June 24th, with early voting starting tomorrow, it is an opportunity. An opportunity for us to show that Muslims don't just belong in New York City, we also belong in City Hall. Because yesterday I stood on the debate and Andrew Cuomo stood next to me. And here was a man who was the governor for a decade. And he could not name a single mosque he had ever visited. He could not name it because he does not care.
I bet you he also didn't know the population of Iran. That's the real serious question.
There's two things going on there, right? Some people look at that video and go, look, he's in like a mosque. He's talking to just Muslims. He's not talking to New Yorkers. He's got an agenda. But I think you have to look at him overall. He kind of tries to appeal to lots of different groups. And what he's really good at is, if you look at, the way that he carries himself, he's really good at speaking to, the migrant base in New York, whether that be the Muslim population or other migrant groups. And he speaks to them in their language, and he talks about things like, he doesn't know how many mosques there are. Now, you would think for New York City, that's not really a thing that the mayor really needs to know to run New York City. But this is a conversation that's, the conversation has gone in this direction in these progressive states in the US. And he's really good at playing to that and getting people on the ground to vote for him and to campaign for him because of these kind of things that a normal candidate like a Cuomo would not be able to do, because he can't relate to these people in that same manner. So he does have a distinct advantage, and that is the dynamic you're going to see changing. Even in Australia, you're going to see that changing over the next 10 years, that these candidates who are coming up with migrant backgrounds, they are going to be much more capable in terms of speaking to the wider migrant communities and being relatable. And
he's very, very relatable. Have a watch of this.
New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, is there are different parts of my life.
A worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Bring the flavor to the fish, bring the flavor to the rice.
In a Disney movie directed by his mother.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in New York City, this is how I speak. New Yorkers, more than...
So
amazing.
It just shows to me, that demonstrates what a fake person he is.
He's a chameleon.
Yeah.
Look, he's a great speaker. Yeah. He's a very slippery fish. He's extremely good at speaking and campaigning. It was one of the best campaigns I've ever seen. I say that as somebody who hates him and his politics. Like, he ran an amazing campaign. What did he do? How did he run it so well? Oh, just social media. He just killed it on social media. So his mum is as was alluded to in that news report, his mum is like a famous director, famous Bollywood director, and I'm pretty sure his mum must have been helping him with his like video documentaries and his video advertising and stuff like that. They're all cinematically filmed. He spoke, always had a great smile. He had like hot girls for Zohran endorsing him. Emily Ratajkowski was endorsing him. Like, it was a faultless campaign. It's kind of crazy. I think the fact that he has posts 5 years ago where he says like queer trans liberation can only be achieved by defunding the police. Like that's not necessarily something we would identify with, hardcore Islamic fundamentalists. So he's somebody who is very much a chameleon. I think he appeals to different groups at different times with different messages. But at the end of the day, he is really hardcore left. Like to the point where you've bashed me in the past, Avi, because I still identify. I still do. I still identify sort of as like a moderate progressive. For me, someone like Zohran is like he's been very open that he's been supportive of communist movements around the world. He actually endorsed the Venezuelan government on Twitter at one point in 2013.
Yeah, so hold on. Let's go back to what you mentioned before. This is a tweet that he has now deleted. We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need to do is defund the NYPD. But your deal with the New York City mayor uses budget tricks to keep as many cops as possible on the beat. No to fake cuts, defund the police. So this is a super radical person.
Yeah, he is. You know what's funny? I saw a post today, Avi, showing that basically when Bernie Sanders ran for the mayor of Burlington, which is how he sort of got his political start, the police union in Burlington endorsed him every single time he ran. So it's interesting. There's a kind of like old Marxist style left that doesn't really get into the sort of like woke like extreme progressive forms of politics.
I think Bernie supported him.
But yeah, Bernie, of course. No, Bernie did support him. Yeah, no, Bernie, of course, endorsed him, and he was massively behind his campaign. But what I'm saying is, 30 years ago, there was a different type of left where Bernie Sanders, when he campaigned for mayor in Burlington, he wanted to have the police union supporting him every single time. Whereas, Zohran's whole thing was basically smashing the police for a long time.
Is there any chance he's actually gonna defund the police?
No, I don't think that's actually going to happen because One, I think that's actually something that requires state government approval, and he's going for the mayor. I mean, he hasn't even been elected mayor yet. This is the Democratic primary. Traditionally, the Democratic primary has been seen to be like the sort of primary that determines who wins the general election because the Democrats are so powerful in New York City. But look, it's still not even necessarily confirmed that he will win that general election. You know, Eric Adams is running as an independent. The vote could be split. And even if he does get elected, he's going to be up against it a bit because he'll be against the state government that's not necessarily going to endorse a lot of his far left radical plans. So, but of course his supporters won't be upset about that. He'll get to blame, you know, the billionaires and all this stuff and
the system.
You know, yeah, exactly. That's it.
Drew, I think the Attorney General of New York, I forgot her name, the one that was going after Trump, the African American lady, she's the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Southern District. She came out in support of him. I think she was endorsing him and speaking for him. So, you know, I think the state government even might fall for him and the kind of ideas that he's pushing. The thing with him is, like, we keep talking about the fact that he's maybe not an Islamist in the hardcore sense, but he's amicable to these type of ideas. Someone who's open to saying defunding the police, which is a crazy idea, is amicable to, you know, overlooking, terrorism festering in your city or things like this. So I think that's a real concern with someone like this. I think there's a lot of hyperbole right now where they're making these, you know, things like, it was in 2001 that 9/11 happened, and then now we've got like a Muslim mayor. I think that's probably going a step too far because it's possible in a city like New York, which is very much progressive than other parts of the United States of America, that a Muslim mayor could become a reality in America, especially as an American citizen. I know he's only been an American citizen, I believe, for 6 years for whatever reason.
It's crazy.
But it's possible, right? It's not beyond the realm of possibility that you can have these diverse mayors in a country like the US. Now, whether you like that or not, that's a different story, and you can have different opinions on that. But that in itself, I don't think is the remarkable thing in this whole chapter about what's going on.
Listen, I do think at the end of the day, if you look at his wider personality and the really far left social causes that he has promoted, which are like not consistent with, you know, religious views, I think he's more of a cultural Muslim than but the weird thing is that Palestine is like this huge thing for him, and I guess it's sort of like a cultural tribalistic type thing, very sectarian. I mean, I looked on his Twitter. He didn't have a single post about Ukraine, didn't have a single post about, you know, all manner of different conflicts all around the world. The only issue that he is like obsessed with when it comes to international politics is Palestine. And he actually, there's a speech of him like 10 years ago where he basically said, I got my start in politics through the Palestine issue. That was the one thing that, you know, made me interested in politics. It's a very interesting thing because, I don't think he's the type of guy who's I don't think he would pray 5 times a day. I don't think he goes to mosque or anything to pray. But for him, it's just this, like, you know, very much a sort of political identity, I think. I think the way to describe it is kind of like third worldism, where it's kind of like sort of contempt for Western countries, not liking America. Yeah, that sort of thing. That's how I see it.
That's a good description.
I think it's political third worldism, to be honest.
Well,
I don't know if you have that video. I don't know if you also have the video of maybe that he talks about actually he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to New York.
Oh, yeah.
I'll pull it up in a second. So this is him just running your average pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel.
3 letters that we have as an answer to what is happening in Palestine, and it's BDS.
Wow. So there's a really good point here, Avi. You can see in the far corner of one of those posters, the poster had a logo, Sami Doon, on it. So that was an organization that literally got banned in America as a terrorist organization. I'm not sure if you can see it from this angle, but one of the other angles from that exact protest, I saw a photo of it. And there was, Sami Doon, which is literally banned organization in America because they were giving funds to Hamas. So, and also in one of his early raps from like 10, 15 years ago, he shouted out something. I think it was something like the Homeland 4 or something like that. It was basically four individuals who were Muslim American involved in Palestine organizing, who were basically taken to court by the American government, accused of fundraising for Hamas, and he shouted them out in one of his rap songs. So I think he's got a very radical past on this thing. And the funny thing is he wouldn't defend. I mean, he wouldn't distance himself from the term globalize the Intifada, which is like a pretty radical, insane thing. I mean, as we all know, the Intifada in Israel was just a series of suicide bombings, hundreds of them. They killed so many people. And they go, oh, well, it just means resistance. And it's very obvious what he was doing there. That actually, it's funny. They always accuse the right wing of dog whistling, but that in itself is like the biggest dog whistle in history. Everyone knows what intifada means. And he was saying, oh, it just means resistance. Oh, well, in the same way that Mein Kampf just means my struggle in German, mate. It's like everybody knows what it means, right? So that's a funny thing.
Yeah, and so the thing is, when October 7 happened, him on October 9, his response to it, really, he finally put out a statement, and basically he was just his first comment on it was the path toward a just and lasting peace can only begin with ending occupation and dismantling apartheid. So this is in response. This is before Israel fired a single shot in return. Was basically saying to abolish Israel. This guy is an absolute radical, but I think
after 1,000 people were killed, 1,000 people killed. It was as we all know, it was the largest single-day massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, and that's his response.
But I think it's important to note that that's not his only radical agenda. That's just the current thing that a lot of people have jumped aboard now. He is an all-round far left-wing radical who later on into this show will show how the shoehorn theory kind of happens, but we'll get there because I want to watch a couple of his other things as well. But before that, let's just read this first super chat of the night. Thank you, Baz. I was getting worried tonight. Oh crap, we're not used to it doing it this way. Go give it a read there. Can you see it?
Thanks, Baz, for the super chat. Yeah. Hello, lads. I can't watch live because I'm at the hospital with my 86-year-old dad. Take my money anyway, defund the ABC. Well, Baz, I hope your dad's all doing well, considering the situation that you're in. And thank you for at least listening and your contribution today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate that. We're praying for your dad. Hopefully he's all right. And appreciate your super chat. Maybe I'll read them tonight because you're not great to listen to at this point.
I've got a list on a squint. Yeah, hard for me.
No, I was talking about the quality. We weren't talking about you. We were talking about the quality of your sound is pretty average. Okay, so let's check out the next. So I have a few videos from him that I think let's just quickly hit and respond to them so people get an idea of who this guy that could be. It could be the next New York City mayor. Traditionally, it is a Democratic nominee, but it is interesting things could happen, could play out here because there's obviously, they're from the far left wing, AOC wing of the Democratic Party. It looks like maybe the center of the Democratic Party may work together and even the Republicans working together to bring somebody who's not going to absolutely destroy the city. We'll see how that plays out. Do we know when the election actually is? When is the general? In November. Yeah. Okay, let's see what this guy's about. At this stage, it looks like he's going to win it.
Yeah. And I know that Jewish New Yorkers, like Jewish Americans, are fearful in this moment of anti-Semitism. They're fearful, especially after the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado. And they're fearful also in conversations that I have heard myself about life in this city. I spoke to a Jewish man in Williamsburg not too many weeks ago who told me about the fact that he now locks the door that he used to close, that he used to keep open for years because of a fear of who may come in. I spoke to a friend of mine after October 7th who told me about going to his synagogue for Shabbat services and hearing the door open behind him and turning around with a tremor going up his back, not knowing who was walking in and what they wished for them. And ultimately, it's through the conversations I've had with Jewish New Yorkers that I have developed a proposal for the Department of Community Safety that would include an 800% increase in funding for hate crime prevention programs. Because ultimately, we cannot simply say that anti-Semitism has no home in this city or no place in this country. We have to do more than talk about it. We have to tackle it. And that's what we will do through this funding and through this commitment. We will root out bigotry across the 5 boroughs.
He's very crafty.
Yeah, it seems a bit odd that he's the one when it's like he's literally riling up those crowds.
Yeah.
And really, those sound like stories that didn't happen, but who am I to guess that he was talking to some Hasidic guy in Williamsburg?
I don't know. Are you familiar?
Right?
Sorry. You go, Rukshan.
No, I was going to say he's at the pro-Palestine protest, screaming one thing, and he's got those statements right after the attack, and he kind of fuels that sense of hostility in New York, which some of the Jewish population there feels very similar to what we're witnessing in Melbourne. And then on the other side, he's also using that as a pretext to push these, hate crime.
Yes.
That's very cynical stuff.
It is cynical. It is absolutely. He would use the Jewish community that he's terrorizing, that he's leading. The chants at terrorizing and the groups of people that terrorize, they march up to, like he's talking about women. I know New York pretty well, and especially those communities. He's talking about Williamsburg. Mate, they rallied to Crown Heights, which is just another Hasidic community. It's the same group. So to pretend like he cares, but I think you're right, Rukshan. I think he would fight for more hate crime laws, so that he could use them to protect himself and his buddies and basically target and silence his political opponents rather than what it's actually for. And the crazy thing here is that New York is actually the most Jewish city in the world outside of Israel. And this could be their mayor.
Yeah. A million people. Are you familiar, Avi? One of the main reasons he won, it might not be the main reason because he ended up winning on the primary vote. A lot of people thought that Cuomo would win in first place. They have ranked choice voting. A lot of people thought Cuomo would win on first place. Then he'd get up on preferences. Then Zohran would get up on preferences. In the end, Zohran actually won in first place on the primary votes, but he did get about probably 10-11% of the vote in preferences from Lander, I believe, who is actually a Jewish progressive who does consider himself a Zionist, but like a liberal Zionist. I'm not sure if you looked into that at all, Avi, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. Like this guy, Lander, said that Zohran is not anti-Semitic, that the Jewish community could feel very safe with him and stuff like that. I'm wondering, maybe you can get up. I'm not sure if you've got any saved links on this stuff, but maybe you can get up some stuff on Lander and stuff like that, because I'd be interested in your thoughts as you're Jewish yourself.
So you're saying was it in an interview that he was saying it?
They campaigned. They basically campaigned together. So they had lots of campaign appearances together where they basically.
What's his name? Lander.
Yeah, Lander. If you type in Lander Zohran, it'll come up for you.
Let's have a look here. Let's see if we can find something on it. Here we go.
I mean, Drew, you do bring up an interesting point because there was a lot of comments. I was looking into this, and a lot of there were comments where there were Jewish people commenting on these, videos, and especially some of Charlie Kirk's posts about Islamophobia and these kind of things that were being discussed. They were defending Zohran and saying
like anti-Zionist
they voted.
But that's that.
Yeah, they voted for him to feel comfortable. They want him to be mayor, and he's a much better person.
And New York City Comptroller Brad Lander.
Yeah, this is good. This is it.
I'll speed it up though. Oh, let's not get a strike for music here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's very interesting how they campaigned together.
Okay, so this is the leftist Jew.
Why is this your number two guy?
Well, we both agree, for starters, that corrupt, abusive Andrew Cuomo should not be allowed anywhere near City Hall. And we know that by teaming up, a majority of New Yorkers won't choose him. At the same time, we have a positive vision. When I first met Zohran, he was leading an effort to help taxi drivers who were under crushing debt. Like several had committed suicide because medallion holders were crushing them with excess debt. So he led a hunger strike, teamed up with people, and designed a $450 million debt relief program. And has now built on that with a vision for a city that all New Yorkers can afford, whoever they are. And I find it inspiring. And so I hope folks will rank me number one on their ballot and rank Zohran number two.
Mr. Mamdani.
And I think, Brad has been a principled and progressive leader in this city for years. So many of the laws that we celebrate in this city are ones that he actually brought to bear. And I'm talking about someone who founded the Progressive Caucus in the City Council. And it's exciting to know that while each of us think that we will make the next best mayor of New York City, we also understand that it's time for a politics of the future. And that means a politics of collaboration, a politics of sincerity, a politics of principle. And
well, this race in general, Governor Cuomo being in the race, you guys and the other candidates, this has made national news. You both have been interviewed on the national news networks. Your opponent, Andrew Cuomo, has been recently endorsed by Representative Jib Clyburn of South Carolina, the guy who, basically clinched it for Biden in 2020. Why do you think this particular race has become a countrywide story?
I think in some ways because it's a referendum on where our party goes. What we're talking about is a race that has now seen the most funded super PAC in New York City's municipal history, a race that is, one that billionaires and corporations want to buy. And this is a tale that we're seeing across this country, where it's a battle of organized money versus organized people. And ultimately, it's a question for our own party of how do we move forward? Do we move forward with the same politicians of the past, the same policies of the past that delivered us this present, or do we move forward with a new generation of leadership, one that is actually looking to serve the people?
Well, despite this being a New York City race, foreign affairs have become part of it, partly because this is such a multicultural city. And so I'll ask the same question about you. I'll start with you, Mr. Lander. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
I support the vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state.
Mr. Mamdani, same question. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
Yes, like all nations, I believe it has a right to exist and a responsibility also to uphold international law.
Okay, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, is that there are many people in New York, even people who would support your candidacy otherwise, who don't want to support you because of the Jewish community's fear of the true and rising anti-Semitism, not only around the world, but in this country and shamefully in New York, which is the largest Jewish population of any city other than Tel Aviv in the whole world. And they are worried, they're very upset by some of the things that you've said in the past. And they're
Avi,
afraid that you...
If you want to pause it for 1 second, it's interesting. When Lander was asked about it, he said a Jewish democratic state. And when Zohran is asked about it, he always makes sure to never say the word Jewish. Which is
never
funny.
said no, and he specifically when they push him on it, he says, I think I might have a couple of those videos. He specifically says an equal state. So he's talking about he's happy for there to be a country there, but it's not going to be Jewish because he wants everyone in one, which means by definition it'll be majority Muslim.
Well, that's how he sees it. Yeah.
Mayorship would actually lead to increased anti-Semitism, that they believe that would be more dangerous for them. What do you say to those New Yorkers who are afraid that you wouldn't be their mayor, that you wouldn't protect them?
I know where that fear is coming from. It's a fear that is based upon the horrific attacks we've seen in Washington, D.C., in Boulder, Colorado. It's
all the way from Jews will not replace us to today.
And it's a fear that I hear also from New Yorkers themselves. Just a few days after the horrific war crime of October 7th, a friend of mine told me about how he went to his synagogue for Shabbat services, and he heard the door open behind him, and a tremor went up his spine as he turned around.
He's really practiced this story. I want to meet...
look, he's very good at speaking. He's a great speaker. A lot of people compare him to Obama.
I want to meet his friend. I want to meet this friend. This friend that told him right after October 7th, who must have been super encouraged by his statement on October 9.
Yeah, true.
Not knowing who was there and what they meant for him. I spoke to a Jewish man in Williamsburg just months ago
who told
me that the door he left...
There is no... you can understand, like, the Jewish men in Williamsburg. Williamsburg is like
it's been workshopped, that story.
It's an ultra-Orthodox community. And they're not Zionists there. They're not Zionists, so they wouldn't care. Yeah. But they're not, like, why would they be talking to him? It just... I guess he's in the is it like the council there or whatever at the moment?
He's a state assemblyman, so he's like a state politician for New York State.
For the whole state.
Yeah. So representing a New York City district.
So I wonder if Williamsburg is in his district. That would be interesting to know.
I don't think so, but yeah.
It probably not. I'm just guessing here. Like, it's just my point is these sound like made up stories. It's the old, it's funny because the left used to always say this before October 7. If somebody goes, no, I can't be an Islamophobe. I've got Muslim friends. Or they'll say to me, if I'd say I got Muslim kids, how can I be? I don't hate Muslims. I go, the old, I gotta. That's why Rukshan's my friend, is so I can be able to say I don't hate black people. You know what I mean? And now, and now these guys, like, they literally make these stories up that are just longer-winded versions of saying I've got a Jewish friend.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, unlocked for decades. What is now one that he...
I was going to say, what's interesting is just the audience for this kind of live show. I mean, Cuomo was, like, popular in New York at one stage. He was a guy that was seen as going against Trump. I mean, they would have been cheering for him at one stage, and now they're like, acting like he's some sort of pariah, because
I know.
That's how these Democrats are when they move around.
Yeah, I know. It's very funny how they've pushed him out. Look, it's going to be an interesting story to watch, but I think in Australia we need to learn from this, because otherwise we're going to end up having sanctuary cities full of people that don't have our best interests at heart and that do get into politics for either foreign reasons, but also with crazy ideas, which we're still getting to those ideas. So let's just
and ultimately,
quickly...
this is because we're seeing a crisis of anti-Semitism, and that's why at the heart of my proposal,
which he hasn't
for Department
contributed
of Community Safety, is a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%, because to your point, anti-Semitism is not simply something that we should talk about, it's something that we have to tackle. We have to make clear there's no room for it in this city, in this country, in this world.
And no justification for violence of any kind?
No, there's no room for violence in this city, in this country, in this world. And what I have found also from many New Yorkers is an ability to navigate disagreement. You know, I remember the words of Mayor Koch, who said, if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist. And I had an older Jewish woman come up to me at B'nai Jeshurun in synagogue many months ago after a Democratic Club forum. And she whispered in my ear, I disagree with you on one issue. I'm pretty sure you know which one it is. And I agree with you on the others, and I'm going to be ranking you on my ballot. And I say this because I know...
Another story that probably didn't happen.
There are many New Yorkers with whom I have a disagreement about the Israeli government's policies. And also, there are many who understand that that's a disagreement still rooted in shared humanity. Because the conclusions I've come to, they are the conclusions of Israeli historians like Amos Goldberg. They are echoing...
He's naming more Jews that he's...
Naming like anti-Zionist leftists.
Friends by extension. Yeah. I don't hate Jews. There are some Jews I like, the ones that hate themselves.
The words of an Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, who said just recently, what we are doing in Gaza...
I love how they're all using Ehud Olmert as their like the guy went to jail for corruption. The same people in one sentence talk about how corrupt Bibi Netanyahu is, who hasn't been convicted yet of anything, but then they talk about Olmert, who's been to jail for corruption, and then on top of that, he's literally it's like a guy that's come out and done interviews on like Piers Morgan to get some attention because he's irrelevant and he just wants to hit back at Bibi Netanyahu, who he sees as a political foe. It's like internal Israeli politics of the lowest type. He's basically just saying shit for clout.
It's very convenient though that he can name drop some sort of like couple leftists, you know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that Olmert is a leftist, but it's very convenient for him that he can name drop a couple names to then say, "Oh, I'm not against all Jews."
Let's just say when I tried to name drop my friendship with Imam Tawhidi, him and his ilk never accepted my. I'm not an Islamophobe, but I know Imam Tawhidi. I'm friends with Imam Tawhidi. We're a very good friend. And it was never accepted them. But suddenly they're all just such hypocrites and they're doing exactly what they accused all of us of doing.
Oh, this is what I got with the China stuff forever, Avi. Like they would say, "Oh, Drew's not against the CCP; he's actually xenophobic." Blah blah blah, and then it's just so convenient, right?
And then they do the same about it. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
War of devastation. It is cruel. It is indiscriminate. It is limitless. It is criminal killing of civilians. These are the conclusions I've come to.
Stephen, can I?
Sure, please.
I mean, and by the way, before you answer, I want to say if we're not able to fit everything in this interview on the broadcast, we will put the whole thing up online unedited. Okay, go ahead.
So, look, I'm a proud Jewish New Yorker, raising 2 Jewish kids here is the joy of my life. I'm the highest-ranking Jewish elected official.
You know how I know he's Jewish? Like, he's legitimately Jewish? He's just so annoying.
Oh, Avi can't say that.
That's a joke. And you both laughed. That's
He's the only one that can say it.
This is like Ashkenazi versus Mizrahi sort of beef, right?
No, it's just like establishment liberal Jews in Australia, in America. It's like this is a certain breed. This is what there's 2 kinds of Jews that people think are Jews. It's either your Hasidic Jews, and they're the ones that usually they make up all the anti-Semitic imagery that they draw up is always about the Hasidic Jews, which often those people that share that stuff actually probably agree with 90% of the politics of the Hasidic Jew.
Neturei Karta, right? What's their name again? Is it
Neturei Karta is like the most extreme of that group. But I'm not talking about it's funny that when they do the imagery, it does look like Neturei Karta, and they rally with you at the Palestinian rallies, but not even that. I'm talking about like general politics of like right wingers, they would actually agree with 90% of, and to be honest, most of the Hasidic guys are not Zionists. They're being pushed towards it now, being pro-Israel because of what's happening around the world. And the rest, and the other ones that people assume, like picture us as, is these like gross lefties that are often, you know, self-hating. They're Jewish by ethnicity, by tribe only. They don't actually practice anything. They don't really go to, like, they're not practicing Jews. A bit like me, but they're just wild leftists. Their religion really is leftism. And they all have this like annoying tone, like the one he talks with. Anyways.
I'm disavowing, but okay.
I don't think it's. Listen, I just need to be able to call you an anti-Semite by the end of this.
New York City government. I'm nervous about rising anti-Semitism, and also I believe in the humanity and the human rights of Palestinians, and I know that it is possible. I hate what I support that vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, but I hate what the Netanyahu government is doing in Gaza, and I've been saying that a long time. And look, no mayor is going to be responsible for what happens in the Middle East, but there is something quite remarkable about a Jewish New Yorker and a Muslim New Yorker coming together to say, here's how we protect all New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers and Muslim New Yorkers are not going to be divided from each other. We build a city where you have affordable housing and good schools and safe neighborhoods for everyone.
Well, Mr. Mamdani, how do you... I'm just curious, how do you think, you'd be the first Muslim mayor of New York, how do you think you could build a bridge of understanding between the significant Muslim population here in the city and the significant Jewish population here in the city? How do you think you could lower tension?
I think by...
Maybe more rallies, maybe leading more rallies. If we just lead more anti-Israel rallies, where they dehumanize Jews, that's where it's going. And you know what? I got a Jewish friend, so it'll be all good. So dumb, this conversation.
Foregrounding that humanity. And in many ways, that's the most New York City thing we can do. Because for so many of us who've grown up in this city, difference is something that we celebrate. It's something that we know is actually a part of the fabric of this place that we call home. And you know, many years ago, I was the campaign manager of a Jewish candidate for state senate. And I took him to a mosque in Bay Ridge. And after he gave his speech at Friday prayers, an older Palestinian man came over to him and he looked at him and he said,
another story that didn't happen.
Cousins. And I think that there is this possibility of building a shared life in our city, because ultimately that is the story of New York City. It's a shared life of people from across the world. And it's one that we know, even in the language of the hostage families themselves, everyone for everyone. We are tied together as one.
Well, we have to take a quick break.
Has he called for the release of the hostages once? It's very interesting because you know the American hostage who was released very recently as a result of the Trump negotiations.
Yeah.
Zohran, we know Zohran. Zohran held like a huge rally in celebration of that guy on a visa who got arrested by Trump because he was leading some pretty insane. Yeah, that guy. So he was there for the guy on a visa.
I didn't know who you were talking about. I just guessed.
No.
I do know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
The really famous one from Colombia where it was just, he's not even an American citizen, literally was there on a visa, and he had been part of rallies that would like destroy America. And Zohran was there when he was released. Zohran was celebrating for the rooftops. I don't think Zohran was celebrating for the rooftops when that recent American hostage was released. You know, so it's very interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting.
You're right about the fact that he can talk. He's a good talker.
He's a great speaker.
He knows
it's
how
like Obama.
Yeah, he knows to appeal to that whatever crowd's kind of in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can actually see him in the future running as a, maybe on a ticket with AOC as the running mate for the presidential campaign.
He can't. He's not born in America, so he only became a citizen in 2018. Yeah, isn't it crazy? So he only became a citizen in 2018, which is pretty shocking, to be honest. 2018, that's so recent.
Yeah. It's insane that you can go from getting citizenship at 2018 and then becoming New York City mayor. And I think Jews and Muslims could definitely live together like they have for thousands of years in the Middle East when they just on what you said. Sorry to cut you off.
if a Jewish person became a citizen six years ago and became the mayor of New York, would anyone be making that kind of comment?
Tucker would. Oh my God, Tucker! Imagine them. They'd be loving
If
it.
a Jewish person became the mayor of New York City, there would be a lot more comments online.
Probably, yeah. Can you imagine Candace?
Even if they didn't become a citizen, even if they were born in America, there would be a massive. I'm
just putting it out there.
Hey, have you not been online? I don't think it's about religion.
No,
I actually don't. I actually think that you shouldn't, like, if you're what are we, 2025? You're talking about 7 years ago you became a citizen and now you're the mayor of the city, and a city like crazy. New York is pretty crazy. I don't think anyone that's from whichever country should become a mayor, should be allowed to become a mayor of especially New York City, but any city in the United States.
Look. To be fair, he has lived there since he was 7. So I mean, I can understand that part of it. But look, it's pretty crazy that 2018 he became a citizen. That's a very short amount of time.
Let's quickly just do these couple of. Sorry, I've got to actually move them up here. All right.
I saw one about Candace Owens. So she attacked you, right?
Hold on. So that's Avi. I know you're thick-skinned. What do you think of the lies Candace Owens said? She said about you in her last podcast, not supporting Trump. Candace Owens.
What did she say?
I'll play it for you. You want me to play it for you? It's quick.
So she said you were anti-MAGA, but you're like the biggest MAGA guy ever. So
and she's also a liar, because she also said that I was anti-MAGA, and the funny thing is,
when MAGA forever.
That's the thing. Like, I've never turned on Trump ever. She did in one period when what's his name, Vivek was running against him. She was for.
Even the last week. Listen, I'm an outsider here because I'm not a Trump supporter. But even in the last week, she was massively criticizing Trump. It was funny.
Yeah, but that's what it was in response to here. I'll quickly pull out. It's like a minute. It's not. It's just funny how she's. And then and then also the other thing that's really funny to me is that. She said at the end of... Oh, here we go. I've got it here. Give me one sec.
Who ignores that Iran, like there was a viable threat. So please, let's keep J.D. Vance safe. Let's not have him traveling to Fox News studio when there is this totally viable, credible threat against you, in so much that we have to now try... boo-boo.
Oh, no.
First off, the crowd. And, we told you he was going to broker. This was all just 4D chess. It was 4D chess. Shame on you for not believing that Trump could... establish peace, broker peace between Israel and Iran, and they're kind of trying to condemn people who called for peace, and also acknowledge Israel's record with peace, which is that they never have peace. They never have peace. They are not interested in peace, and they make that very clear. So I'll give you 2 examples of people just like, boo, boo. First off, Avi Yemeni is an Israel firster. He writes, mock every last one of them who sided against Trump out of blind hatred for Israel, screeching about World War III while he was preventing it. Never let them or the internet forget that they chose the wrong side of history. This is like, real MAGA guys, the people that fought Trump every second of the way. And now that war is brewing, they're very happy.
So so that's all. It's not major, but she's like, are you with us? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. Sorry.
She's like, those who fought Trump every step of the way. What? When did I ever fight Trump? She's literally the one that has a bunch of times when it suited her politically, she fought Trump. And
it's amazing.
And you know what's something else that's funny? And I'll share another video of it later. But this is, to me, is the funniest part of that whole Candace Owens saga. Is give me 2 seconds.
Monday, a response to the former
1 second. I'll
were
find
right
it.
that by doing what he did, it brings Iran.
Here we
go. For him because this wasn't going to happen and it is happening. But I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for.
If it turns out that his instincts were right, that by doing what he did, it brings Iran to the negotiating table and they do a deal on their nuclear plans, would you admit that you were wrong in that circumstance?
Yeah. I will always admit when I'm wrong. Anybody that listens to my podcast
So
knows that.
true,
It just so happens
so
to
true.
be that, especially
Yeah,
if I come on to the
definitely
Piers
admits
Morgan
when
show
she's wrong.
and I make some predictions, that it ends up that I'm right. So I'm feeling lucky, but I will of course admit I'm wrong if that is the result.
She said that like the Jews invented dinosaurs is like a demon or a demon trick.
Forget about that. Forget about that. Let's just say that is one easy thing to judge. Has she turned around because she was wrong about all the predictions about World War III? Has she turned around and said, guys, I stuffed this one up. Sorry, I was wrong. Like she promised on Piers Morgan she was going to do if it turns out that Trump was actually playing a game where he managed to bring peace. He did it. Has she said, sorry, I got it wrong?
No, he has not.
It's funny, isn't it?
She's doubled down.
She doubles down. That's it. I was going to say, she always finds, what I've noticed with Candace is being a fan of her when she first started, and even to a couple of years ago, she always finds a way to excuse the mistakes that she makes in her predictions or in her opinions. Like if something new comes out which contradicts what she said, she'll find some other theory or some other link that kind of excuses the view that she had and then perpetrates further her previous stance. So I think that's what's happening right now with after Trump's found this negotiated peace with Iran. Whatever you think of it, it is a deal that he's done with Iran for this to happen. She's found a way not to blame herself for the views that she had.
Speaking of predictions, did you see there was stuff going viral on Twitter? It had like millions of views. It was like Groypers, supporters of Nick Fuentes, going like, "Wow, he predicted it all!" Like just because he said like one time, like 1 year ago, he said, "Oh, there might be conflict with Iran." Like
we talked about this.
It doesn't require a fucking genius. Like I think anybody could.
Oh my God! Is Iran proxy targets Israel in the worst killing since the Holocaust, and this is going to end up with a war with Iran? Nick Fuentes,
who could have foreseen it? Who could have foreseen it?
I know, but it's even like Alex Jones. These guys predict so many things, and when one happens, they said it all. So they either predict.
Did you see Alex Jones? I shared this yesterday. He was he had this big rant saying that the Star of David was actually like
we shared it.
a trick by Satan or something like that. Oh my God, he's just very strange.
They've all lost the plot. Anyways, Gap Media, thank you so much for your super chat and your support. Really appreciate it. Brett says, evening chats, loving the backdrop. Rukshan, where's your gin and tonic? Where's your gin and tonic?
That's true, Brett.
What time is it there for you?
I feel like a drink.
What time is it there for you now?
3:20 p.m. So just
do you guys
just after lunchtime?
In Sri Lanka, do they also have 24 hours a day, or is it different there?
It's 24 hours a day.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Brett, for your super chat. So at least we know that they've got the invention of the clock in Sri Lanka. Ted, thank you for your super chat. Would the owner of the purple Valiant parked across from my driveway move it, and don't ask to borrow the Kingswood? I just polished the dipstick. Okay, I appreciate that. Does somebody understand any of that references, or am I missing something? No? Appreciate the super
chat. It could be a quote from someone who knows. Yeah.
I think people just like us to read some random stuff in the feed because it's a super chat. But we will do it. You just pay us. Listen, that was what I was taught. So what you got to understand, Jewish school, 50% of the classes is how to save money, and the other 50% is how to make money.
I disavow.
Baz and Dark Horse, thank you so much for your super chat. Well, I can't watch live tonight. Could you please get Erin Molan on the show? Not just because she's smoking hot, well, mainly because she's smoking hot. Shout out Ted and Arthur. Rukshan, do you think Erin Molan is smoking hot?
I disavow. No comment. I'm going to take Drew's stance for this one.
Drew,
I don't want to get involved.
Is she smoking hot?
I don't want to get in trouble either. So I can't get in trouble with Mrs. So no, we disavow.
I think she's a beautiful person inside and out, and I have asked her on the show. We'll see how we go with that, and I'll try again for you, Baz. But appreciate the super chat, and make sure to catch up on it after. It seems like you're watching it though. Like what are these? Are you just randomly super chatting without watching this, Baz? I like you. This is the kind of people I like to do business with. And final super chat for now. Abby, welcome back. Good to see you here tonight. Had you previously had any interactions with Candace before, Avi? Yeah, I'd been on her show, I think, a couple of times in the past.
Oh, okay.
That was when she worked for the Juden. When the Zionists...
for the Yahud.
When the money was kosher for her. But even then, the last time I was on a show, I remember it was during the COVID period, and things started to feel a bit funny at that point. Anyways, it is what it is. Good on her. God bless her. And you know what? I'm really happy. Out of all my tweets, she actually pulled one tweet I 100% stand by and am proud of. And it's like she put it on the screen and it's talking and mocking her. And I think the average person that actually has a larger than double digit IQ reads that and goes, why are you even I do genuinely, especially through the war when I got a bit emotional, I turned into a bit of a lefty. Drew would understand, like him. And like I've done some tweets where I'm like, afterwards I thought, oh yeah, that probably was not the best. That wasn't the best me. And she didn't put up, and even in the last few days, even with the Iran thing, like there were a couple of tweets where I thought, probably shouldn't have written that. And I wrote it, and I thought, all right, she's going to put that. No, she put up the one, like I legitimately would love to say to her face, but she'll never have me on anymore. Look, I'd go on a show just to be able to say that stuff to her face, and also just to ask her about basic knowledge when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Because
that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
She's the funniest. She literally has zero clue. Like there are some people that have some idea, so they can pull parts of history that I may not even be that well versed in, and pull it over me and make me look stupid just because I'm like, I'd have to actually look it up and they know it off the top of their head. Like the population of Iran. But with her, she doesn't even know. Like when she started this campaign against Israel, when she first started it, her first kind of debate on the subject, she was arguing that Israel is not a bastion of freedom when they have a Muslim quarter in Jerusalem. Candace, if you want to apologize for or come out and admit you got something wrong, why didn't you talk about that? Why didn't you apologize for getting the dumbest fact about Israel wrong? That there's a Muslim quarter in Jerusalem. You could start there. Otherwise, you better condemn the Chinatown in your city. All right, let's go back to let's finish watching this part of the segment here. 1 second. Oh, hold on. There's breaking news. Let me just have a look at what it is. It looks like Khomeini, who has been missing for a week, is going to be doing... hold on, let me take a look at this. Give me 2 seconds.
I thought for a second you were going to say he'd been killed.
No, I think he... Look, I was looking at how the Iranians were reacting to the fact that he hasn't been seen, and...
Yeah, it's about to do a televised message.
All right, we'll just pull it up on the side. Hold on, do you reckon he's going to do it from the other side?
He's already left the country.
Yeah, is he going to do it? I actually watched a really interesting documentary on the history of Iran from about 49. Today it came up on my YouTube thing, and it was actually fascinating. And then if you look at that, where's he doing the televised? Here we go. Televised will be released in minutes. Okay, so
he's streaming it. He's going to stream it on Kick.
On Kick?
Oh, no, I'm joking. He should do some Twitch streaming. The kids would love it, right? Stream on TikTok and Twitch.
Do some super chats.
Yeah. Yeah, he should do super chats. All right, so I guess, can you keep an eye on it, somebody? And we'll keep going. Maybe Daniel. 1 second. I think it is on already. Sorry, just going to refresh it. I think Daniel, just send it to my... Can you send it? Oh, Daniel, when you're watching it, so just send it to my X when it's live if you see something, and we'll move back towards it. Let's just finish it watching. Where was it? Here we go. Let's just finish watching this part.
We're here with Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani and Comptroller Brad Lander, who are both running for mayor of New York and have endorsed each other on the ranked choice voting system. Now, guys, as I said, I'm not endorsing either one of you, so would you please switch seats right now?
Very good. All right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Joe.
This is great. All right.
Welcome to the hot seat, friendo. Okay, Mr. Lander, one of the reasons why you're here is not just because you're doing well in the polls, but last week you were handcuffed by ICE for linking arms with an immigrant that they attempted to detain. First of all,
I don't think we need to watch that. Let's keep going. There's some other stuff that he's done that's not around Israel. That's what I wanted to get to, just to show people who he is. Is there something wrong with my screen?
That's okay.
Oh, we're getting. Oh, that's what it is. I think we've got that. Maybe that's what he was talking about. Benji, I don't know what he's talking about. He's giving me a message. Okay, let's look at one of his promos from...
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. Grocery prices?
Okay, reactions to that genius plan, because every socialist country, every socialist plan, every food distribution plan around the world has worked out brilliantly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Sri Lanka right now. They have these co-ops and stuff like this and these kind of concepts, but yeah, the cost of food has skyrocketed and there's all sorts of issues involved in it. And it's not a fully socialist country either, but we have that kind of socialism in Sri Lanka. So, yeah, I don't think it works in practice. And these ideas of trying to implement it in the West, and the way that they do it is we'll take it from the corporates and all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't always work, right? And a lot of these corporations and a lot of the businesses might actually end up leaving New York. Like, who would want to be a part of this system that they're creating? So I don't think it works. Drew?
Oh, look, it doesn't really work. I mean, he said that he only wants to do it with 3 or 4 stores. The problem is we know that in grocery stores that the profit margin's like 2%. So if he does them in some of the poorest parts of, New York City, all he would probably be doing is putting out of business like small grocery stores, the small
Exactly.
bodegas. So I don't know. This stuff never seems to work. This stuff just never seems to work.
Prediction, do you think he's actually going to do it?
Well, this is the thing. I don't know how much of this stuff he can actually do as mayor and how much of it requires sort of state government support. And I don't know. Yeah. And again, he might not get much of this stuff done. And then his supporters can just say, oh, it was the system. And it's not going to cause him any harm because he can just say it's the system and the billionaires that stopped me. So, yeah.
Do you think this is just a scam just to get his cousins a few more convenience stores?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm disavowing that. I'm disavowing that.
Well, Vivek to expand the 7-Eleven chain and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
The funny thing is that he actually comes from a really rich family. So his mum is like a famous director.
Imagine my shock.
Bollywood director. He went to a kindergarten or went to like an elementary school that's $60,000 a year. His dad is a professor at Columbia University in post-colonial studies, and he calls Israel the manifestation of Nazism today and stuff like that. So like that's his family, right? It's just such a classic background.
I've seen a few comments, Avi, like people saying in the comments, what's this related to, how it relates to Australia, why it's important. I'd just like to say, like, for instance, like cities like London, New York, these are like the beacons of freedom.
What do you think's happening in Melbourne? Great. What do you think is going to happen in Melbourne?
Great city. I think this is the eventuality for a city like Melbourne. Like, this is where we're headed, and it's like it might not be a Muslim mayor or whatever. I mean, I don't think you can rule that out. I mean, whatever, right? That's whatever. But the fact that we're heading towards these kind of ideas, Melbourne's almost already there. We're almost like a socialist state under our current Labor government. But
I want to say, like, I think it's a bit silly. I get these sorts of comments all the time, like, oh, why do you care? You live in Australia. But like, trends in America always end up, following in Australia. We're very close. Like, we've got a pretty similar culture. It's the Western world, like English-speaking countries, democratic. We've been allies for like more than 100 years. Like, this like stuff that happens over there ends up following here. We're very culturally influenced by America here.
Khamenei's here.
Ah, lovely.
Our enemies have focused precisely on this uranium enrichment. They have zeroed in on this.
Where is he?
The nuclear industry, with all its greatness and the many advancements it represents,
He's there in
cannot
person.
truly function or fulfill its purpose without possessing the essential capability
This is when they should get
for
him.
enrichment. This process is absolutely necessary, as it enables us to produce the specific type of fuel required for the operation of our nuclear power plants. Without the ability to carry out enrichment ourselves, we would inevitably have to rely on other parties or external sources to obtain the fuel needed for our reactors.
Hold on, let's see if I can rewind it a minute.
It's like having valuable oil resources right in your own country, but not being allowed to build a refinery to process that oil or to produce gasoline and other essential fuels from it, even though you have
bullshit.
Yeah, but this, you know what this tells me, reading between the lines, is that this has hurt them hard. It makes me believe. It makes me believe Trump's right in the devastation of the nuclear facilities. Is that why would he be crying to be able to do it?
Yeah, I think they smashed the nuclear facilities. I think it's cope to say otherwise. The centrifuges. I read that centrifuges are really sensitive to vibrations, and they dropped 14,000 kilo bombs on them. I can't see how they fucking survive that.
I don't think we need to keep watching. It's just going to be. I'll take a look at the headlines after the fact.
We can already predict what he says. To go, the Yehudi is bad. The Jews are bad. We will kill them. Like, that's just literally his speech for the next.
We won. We won.
Yeah, that's the Iranian regime for you.
Should we send him a super chat? Okay. Okay. So another issue in which just before we go, what have we got? How dare you from Stu? Appreciate it. I can't remember what you were referring to in that, but I know the reference. I'm taking that from our good friend Greta Thunberg. Okay,
she's smashing it lately, Roddy. What do you think of her recent turn, Avi?
Mate, she was the best PR Israel got for a while until Iran. Now everyone's forgotten about her. All right, this is another video that was published. Hold on. Oh, 1 second. I might have to turn up the...
W mean?
Win, loss, win?
Okay. I like the sentiment. Beautiful. It means, which actress did Ellen come out to in her sitcom in 1997? Reese Witherspoon, Laura Dern, or Felicity Huffman?
I'm going to go with Laura Dern just because I love Jurassic Park.
And you're going to be correct. Let's go! Hi, I'm Ananiah. This is Gaydar. What does WLW mean?
Win, loss, win?
Okay. I like the sentiment. It means women loving women.
Also agree.
Yeah. On Gaydar, we're politically correct. I live. Which queer group is currently being erased from all federal government websites?
Trans people.
Yes, they are. F you. Everyone in Trump's cabinet. You can't be here when I say that.
I'm just vehemently opposing their policies because they're disgusting.
You better get the SAT word in, too. Which of these people is homophobic and they're trying to ban gay marriage in Michigan? And which of them is a gay icon?
Isn't this the guy who has the Elvis voice?
That's not Austin Butler.
Oh?
Okay, so who's the other one?
He's got to be trying to ban gay marriage.
Well, yes. With that middle part.
Is the right or the left?
The one on the right.
Okay. Never trust the right.
Period. You better get him. Yes. I can't
Very brave.
Called him
Very
mayoral elect.
Yeah, and so he's got a lot of that shtick, but you could see why young, dumb people...
This is why I don't think he's an Islamic fundamentalist at the end of the day.
But,
it's interesting. It's interesting.
This was something here.
One of the things that we've said, beyond saying we're going to make this a sanctuary city for LGBTQIA plus workers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million of funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of work. And in this moment especially, we want to fight the Trump administration.
That's wild. So there he's committing $65 million to gender-affirming care, so to castrate little kids. That's who you're talking about. This is his politics. See, yeah, on one hand, he supports the jihadi terrorists that throw gays off building. He says he doesn't. He says he doesn't support them, but essentially in behaviour he does. And then on the other side of it, he wants to fund castrating kids and cutting off their sex organs as a social experiment for his liberal friends. It's wild.
I'm not sure the hardcore Islamic fundamentalists in the Middle East would support some of his policies regarding LGBT, but it's interesting.
And then this is just him being a typical leftist at a protest. So your average, that's the thing, like when we see him in all the videos where he's talking to camera or in a speech or sitting down in an interview, he comes across super polite, super quick, gentle, tolerant. But in real life, and he reminds me of like here, what's his name, Nasser Mashni in the pro-Palestine movement. Who,
yeah.
Whenever he does an interview, he takes the really low tone, calm, considerate. It's sounding like everything he sounds is articulate.
Statesman. Very statesman-like.
But even beyond that, it's beyond statesman. It's very caring. They make this emphasis on the way that they talk, that they're talking from love and compassion and peace and all equal human rights. But then when you see them out in real life, that's what they are.
It's interesting. It's very performative. It's very performative.
I shared a video. I shared a tweet video from Iman Tawhidi that kind of talks about this thing. Tawhidi, sorry. That talks about this. I think that's very interesting the way he frames it. Like,
I'll pull it up.
A lot of these people that pull it up. It was a reply. If you go to my tweets, it was a reply to a tweet that I had about this very issue that I had replied myself.
Oh, yeah. So I got you.
The Islamist-Leftist alliance, which is like the funniest, weirdest alliance in history, and every time it ends up with the Islamists killing the leftists.
Yes, but that's the thing. But see, the leftists think that they can control the Islamists, and the Islamists laugh, and they're like, "Okay, useful idiots." It's history. Just look at in history everywhere. That's what's happened.
That's what happened in Iran. They literally executed tens of thousands of leftists.
Yep.
After they got in. Like tens of thousands.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. And Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that, But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
Yeah, that's.
I want to say, I think it can sometimes be a bit more complex though, because like, do you remember when Kamala lost? There were some of these Gaza accounts that were going like, "Hey, Kamala, Gaza's speaking now, bitch," and it got like millions of views. Like some of these guys, they're very politically confused. Some of them are very politically confused.
For context, that interview was filmed a bunch of years ago, probably 2018. Right. So it's before the whole October 7 and kind of this massive awakening of an alliance between the left and the right and the jihadis. And the jihadis have been super confused. Like I was laughing in the lead up to the Trump election where the jihadis were going all out against Biden and Kamala because of the genocide. And I'm thinking, wait, are you like...
That was so stupid. That was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Like Sneaker, all those guys, like they were fully supporting. I've got that coming out. That's right. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's just read these couple of super chats. We've got Ebony. Thank you again, Ebony. These are names I'm getting to recognize on the live stream. I appreciate another super chat. Do you ever get more frustrated with voters than candidates when election results are detrimental to our society? Yes, I think you're saying. Yeah. What'd you say?
People are getting. I'm saying people are getting what they vote for. Like
exactly.
People complain here in Australia about Labor. They're complaining. How many people complain in Victoria about the Labor government every day? But they keep winning these elections with these massive margins. So at the end of the day, it's up to the voters, and they bear the ultimate responsibility for how the state is or how the country is, and in this case, New York, how the city will turn out if they vote this guy in as the mayor.
Yep. Appreciate Ebony, the super chat, and Jimmel has given us a super chat just with love as usual. Thank you, mate. Okay, so let's just look at some of the before we move on to the next story. We just want to see some of the reactions. There's no better reaction than to start with the man himself. President Donald Trump said, "It's finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line." Zohran Mamdani, a 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Dem primary and is on the way to becoming the mayor. We've had radical leftists before. We've had radical lefties before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got AOC +3 dummies all backing him. And even our great Palestinian senator crying, Chuck Schumer.
Very weird. I don't know why he keeps on calling Schumer Palestinian. It's very funny. It's very weird.
He is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country. Listen, I think Trump is brilliant when it comes to mocking different public figures and other politicians, whatever. And I think that whole Chuck Schumer Palestinian has stuck. And it's just because in the Jewish community, I know that within all Jewish groups that I'm a part of, when they talk about Chuck Schumer, they refer to him as, the biggest traitor to our people, somebody that's thrown us all out under the bus just for, his personal political gain. So I think Trump knows when he's saying that he's playing to several audiences, and I think he comes up with these little labels and he just enjoys them. And he's consistent. Like, he'll always refer to him as that now.
He's a master of wordsmithery. I have to say that.
But not everyone was as excited. Not everyone was as upset about the result, and this was what you were referring to before. A Trump supporter who, as we were discussing a moment ago, we had the extreme right, but pro-jihadi groups that did seem to be rallying. They were rallying against Biden for Trump, and then they've come out. This is Sneeko.
Oh my God.
What is he, like a streamer?
Hey, didn't see you there. Congrats, though, to Zohran Mamdani. It's not over yet, but it's looking like he won the mayoral race in New York City. We were all over every borough today, seeing people super excited to go out and vote. I supported him because he's the only non-Zionist candidate on that stage. I thought he needed to be bought and sold, but people are energetic. People are tired of the Zionism, and I'm excited to see what he's got. I'm not a socialist myself. I don't want everyone to be a communist getting free stuff, but I think he has some cool ideas. Hopefully he can do the best, man, and wish you the best of luck. If you do win, New York is with you, and we want you to do well, man.
And so, to me, that just demonstrates the shoehorn theory. And firstly, it demonstrates how these guys, these like Jew haters, he's a straight up Jew hater if you watch his stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
These guys from the fringe right, the woke right. So the guys from the woke right really hate Jews more than they love America. No matter how much they profess to love America, they hate Jews more.
Did you see Martin May did one as well where he said, I don't care. He said something like, I don't care who runs New York City because it's a left shithole anyway. And it's like, dude, you care more about Gaza than New York City.
Exactly.
You're supposed to be some kind of like American nationalist conservative. It's very funny, isn't it? It's very strange. But it's not that strange because we know it's just they hate Jews.
What he's saying there, Avi and Drew, is they're saying that people are tired of Zionism and they're tired of Israel. And this is like they're trying to say that this is what's going to happen in the midterms as well. So there's a lot of commentary around this saying that because, Trump's gone in there, the Republicans have gone in there and supported Israel and struck Iran and, it's not supported Gaza, whatever. People are sick of Israel. People are sick of Zionism. So therefore, everyone's going to turn on Trump and the midterms are going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans. Like, that's how they're trying to frame this. And, the election or the candidate coming up for the Democratic mayoral race being a Muslim and someone that's all against all of that stuff is representative of that. That's, in a nutshell, what they're trying to say with these type of
I get what he's trying to say. I don't think you can take Sneeko or any of these communist kids so seriously.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of them saying that. People are tired of.
No. I understand that, but that's like saying, if you look at the lead up to the Trump election, it was also in the midst of the war. Also, people were tired of it. It didn't affect it at all. It didn't affect him at all. I think that if Trump, I think they'll be tired. So let's say the last week didn't play out the way it played out. So the 12-day war didn't end with, and something else happens where it drags the war on for a long time for America. Then yes, maybe. But if Trump has these kind of wins like he did in the last week, like this is the worst time to say that because everybody, even across the political spectrum is looking at this and going, well, that was pretty good. Like the worst that they can say, the worst they're throwing at Trump at the moment is the strategical bombs of the Fordo nuclear facilities were not as effective as he claims. That's the criticism they're giving him. Not it's so they're not because everybody agrees, like, how amazing is that? He came in when Israel was going, there were rockets flying every day to Israel, and Israel was bombarding Tehran and across Iran, took out their air defenses, so Israel had full control. And then Trump came in, did 2 strikes. 2 days later, everybody's talking about it's going to be World War III. Even his so-called allies were putting their hand on their heart. Oh my God, this is the death of us. Candace Owens was getting ready to apologize. And then he basically brought peace so quickly where no one expected. So they couldn't criticize that. And so the criticism they're giving him. So my point is, like, I don't think it's true. Like, I don't think Sneeko's right. I think people are sick of the whole Palestine-Israel, but they're sick of it from both sides of it. They're sick of hearing it. You think they're not sick of hearing this guy get up at Palestinian rallies? You think people are not sick of the rallies that are blocking off the city?
Exactly.
They're sick of it in general. To heck, I'm freaking sick of it. I wish we don't have to talk about this anymore. But it is just part of the news. I think the only way Trump or the Republicans will get punished over Palestine and Israel is if there is something that, so like the example of Iran, like if it didn't end like this and America got dragged into like a continuous bombing campaign, even no boots on the ground. Like if there were boots on the ground, absolutely, I think it would play against.
I never thought there'd be boots on the ground.
There's not.
I always
There's
thought
no one.
that was so stupid. That was so stupid.
Anyone who really thought there was boots on the ground is an idiot. Like if somebody's a commentator and they actually believed what they were saying, that there's going to be boots on the ground, they should quit their job because it was so obvious. All right, just quick super chat.
It's just so bullshit because, like, I looked at it, and I'm not even a Trump supporter or anything, but I looked at it just objectively, and, like, Iran didn't have air defenses anymore. They'd gone through half their ballistic missile stockpile. They don't have a fucking air force. Like, no one was talking about boots on the ground. There's no land border between Israel and Iran. It was just panicking. It was actually just panicking.
What does he call him? Panicans? Panicans?
It actually was. That actually was an actual episode of Panicans.
Ted, thank you for the super chat again. Kingswood Country would the owner of the purple Valiant move your car. Didn't I read this one or is this again? Your car leaking WOG oil on my driveway. No, this is another one. They're just trolling us. I'm going to read it. Thank you for the super chat. And throwing me off. He's like changed a few words at the end there, so I knew I didn't read that one. Okay. Another proud, somebody super happy. Mehdi Hassan is happy. He's retweeted somebody with laughing faces. The first thing Zohran should... It's almost like Zohan. Like it's like.
Oh
Zohran.
yeah, that's a great movie by the way.
Zohran, my favorite line is they hate us because they think we are you. But no, it's not true anymore. They just hate us because we are us. The first thing Zohran should do is, as mayor, is finally build that ground zero mosque. Like,
What's the joke? What's the joke that 9/11 happened? Like,
exactly.
what the fuck's going on?
That is like so messed up. Like it's just a ridiculous thing. And this guy is Mehdi Hassan, the leader of the, the liberal leftist anti-Israel campaign that's become good friends with Tucker Carlson lately. Which
I just don't know. I just don't understand it. Like, what actually is supposed to be the joke there? That ground zero exists. That 9/11 exists.
Exactly.
Like, I think a real answer. Like if I had to properly analyze it, I guess that what he's saying is, oh well. The only reason why there was a blocking of the mosque in Ground Zero was Islamophobia. So, haha, we're going to stick it to the Islamophobes. But, like, come on, like, have some humility. 3,000 people were killed. Like, it's not something to laugh about. There's a lot of arrogance there. A lot of arrogance. I've been there before. And I just hate. Isn't it sick how they now try to say like the Jews did 9/11? Like just literally whitewashed. They've whitewashed terrorism so badly. Like,
they've always said it. It was just like a tiny fringe of the community, or it was actually pretty prominent in the Islamic community, but outside of that, it was just like your fringe right wingers.
But a lot of these Islamist fundamentalists, they celebrate it. They go, "Oh yes, America deserved it." Oh yeah, but it wasn't us; it was the Jews. Like,
but if you understand the Middle East, that's everything. So everything they always celebrate the win in things that they claim they didn't do.
The Jews did.
Yeah, so and they can't see you can't have both sides of it. So you need to pick a story and go with it. But you see, like, all the big pro-Palestinian or even the American Patriot accounts, which are often run from Pakistan or whatever, they're always doing that. Like, in one tweet, they'll be celebrating what happened on September 11, and the next one they'll blame the Jews. I was actually I've been to the Twin Towers both before and after 9/11.
I've been to the memorial. It was actually very sad.
Yeah. It
guys,
definitely is.
I'll be back, guys. Give me a second. I'm just gonna get some water. I am melting. I will be back. You guys keep going.
Don't melt on us. All right, I'll kick you off because we don't need you.
I can hear the audio. I can
oh, you're staying on the screen. You're just okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll read this super chat. Gap Media says, unfortunately, people vote woke. I am sick. I was sick last week. My doctor asked me if I was vaxxed up. I never took the shot and never will. Yeah, people do vote woke. It's a problem. I hope you're feeling better. Thanks for the super chat. Stu says, we are not trolling. We are proud of you, mate. Thank you, Stu. I didn't think you were trolling me. It was... Why are you saying we? Are you with the other one that's got the keeps sending us super chats about the cars? All right. Let's watch. Let's move on to NATO. This is something that you're pretty passionate about, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? I want to say, Avi, I actually really hope. My dad actually said this to me because my dad's actually conservative. He also likes your show as well, Avi. And he said this to me, and I actually think, I hope he's right. He said, I hope that Trump woke up a bit to Tucker and how stupid some of their shit is.
I think he did.
And I hope that might actually lead to him being a bit more fair when it comes to Ukraine. Because, like, I don't know if you saw, but he answered a question by...
what I want to watch now is first his NATO one, then we'll watch the Ukraine one. And I did see what you're talking about. And I thought his response was pretty good.
It was actually a good response, yeah.
Let's watch. I'm going to put it fast so that we can just get through it, and then I'll slow it down when they say something that I want to hear.
They're original the planes.
They travel. Yeah. They have better seats than I do.
Say no.
About your goals for NATO and Article 5 today.
We're with them all the way. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, we're with them.
Put it on the screen.
They have very big things to announce today. I don't know if you've taken the vote or you're going to take the vote, but I've been asking them to go up to 5% for a number of years, and they're going up to 5%, and that's a big, from 2%. And a lot of people didn't even pay the 2%. So I think that's going to be very big news. NATO is going to become very strong with us, and I appreciate doing it. Perhaps you want to talk?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me first, before I go to the spending, I just want to recognize
Is that you? That's your.
Sorry, I muted myself.
I think credit where credit is due. This is one of the things, and I know a lot of Trump's base hates NATO in general, but this is one of the things that Trump promised is he's going to get Europe to actually pay for their own defense, and he did it. He's got them up from 2% to 5%. What do you reckon about that?
That is good. That is good. 5% is good. And look, I've always said, even though I've disagreed with Trump's Ukraine policy very strongly, I do think he is overall right that Europe should be the one leading on Ukraine, because at the end of the day, it is the European continent. They've got a big enough economy to lead here. They were dragging their feet, and that was on them, right? So, look, I think it's a good thing. If he can get it up to 5%, I hope it can happen. It has to happen. Everybody has to get 5%. Australia needs to go up as well. Definitely.
You're well.
Thank you.
You're a man of strength, but you're also a man of peace. And the fact that you are now also successful in getting the ceasefire done between Israel and Iran, I really want to commend you for that.
Thank you very much.
And I think this is important for the whole world. Then on spending, it's absolutely true. I want to state here, without President Trump, this would not have happened. In 3 stages. When you became president in 2016, 2017, you forced Europeans and Canadians to pay more. At this moment, the result of that phase is $1 trillion extra aggregate defense spending by the Canadians and the Europeans. Then came phase 2, when you became president in January last year. Phase 2 is that all the countries not yet on 2% have now committed to the 2%. This is the old goal from Wales in 2014. 7 were not on 2%. Some were saying somewhere in the 2030s. Now this year, all of them, including Canada, including Italy, including Belgium, they have all now committed to the 2%. And now comes the big splash. Today, we will decide to go to 5%. We have to keep ourselves safe from our adversaries, but also because it is fair to equalize with the United States. With this 5%, the Europeans and the Canadians will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So this is not about American taxpayers paying more. This is about Europeans, Canadians paying more. And again, this would not have happened. I'm really saying this here, and some people might criticize me, but then when I speak with them, they all say, yes, you're right. This would not have happened if you would not have been elected in 2016 and re-elected last year and back into office in January. So I want to thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great victory for everybody, I think. And we will be equalized very shortly, and that's the way it has to be. It's going to be a lot of money, too, a lot of defense.
It's trillions extra.
Yeah, and we have a great relationship, and we've had a great relationship from the beginning. Highly respected man. And yeah, we appreciate you being here, too, everybody. We really do. We have a tremendous group of people on my left and a tremendous group of people on my right. They might be even better than my people. I don't know. Let's have a fight. Let's figure it out. Anyway, but we appreciate it. And we've had a tremendous relationship, Mark and I. And we've really worked on the subject for a long time. And when Biden was here, it just died like everything else died. And now it's you're going to take, I guess, a vote today, right?
Absolutely. Today we will decide unanimously to do it. That's my absolute conviction.
So we can't talk about it until the vote's taken, because sometimes strange things happen with those. But I think you're going to. I think you're going to do very well. Everyone's very happy about it. Go ahead. Yes,
Mr. President. How is the Iran-Israel ceasefire going, in your opinion?
I think very good. Israel came back yesterday. I was so proud of them because they came back. They went out because they felt there was a violation, and technically they were right, but it just wouldn't have worked out very well. And they brought the planes back. They had gone on to another journey because there was a little bit of a violation. And I said, you got to get them back. And they came back, and it was a great thing. And it's going very well.
Mr. President, what is your response to the foreign minister saying she still wants to enrich nuclear?
Hello, Katie. She's so great, this one. Any question she asks, I'll answer. Well, maybe I better not say that. What was your question?
What is your response to the Iranian foreign minister continuing to say Iran will enrich uranium and pursue nuclear weapons?
Well, I don't know if they've said that, but I'll tell you, the last thing they want to do is enrich anything right now. They want to recover. And we won't let that happen. Number one, militarily we won't. I think we'll end up having somewhat of a relationship with Iran. I see it. Look, I've had a relationship over the last 4 days. They agreed to the ceasefire. And it was a very equal agreement. They both said, that's enough. They both said it. But no, they won't do that. The last thing they want to do, Katie, is enrich. They're not looking to, can you imagine after all of that, they're going to say, oh, let's go and do a bomb. There could be a day in the future, and then somebody else taking our place will be saying, don't do it. And maybe they won't do it as well. I don't know. But they're not going to have a bomb, and they're not going to enrich. And we believe all of the stuff is down there. We don't think they had nearly the time, because to get that out is a very difficult thing. It's not like moving a package or taking this carpet up and moving it. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous to do. We believe it's all down there. We had a tremendous victory, a tremendous hit. And because of that, I don't think they would have been down there, because they knew we were coming. When they know we're coming, they're not going to be down in that 30 stories underground. So, no, I think it was just a tremendous victory for everybody, including Iran. Look, they've got a country, and they've got oil, and they're very smart people, and they can come back. Israel got hit very hard, especially the last couple of days. Israel was hit really hard. Those ballistic missiles, boy, they took out a lot of buildings. And they've been great. Bibi Netanyahu should be very proud of himself. And they've really been great. But they're not going to be building bombs for a long time.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to the intelligence reports saying that the Iranian nuclear sites were only partially devastated, not entirely?
Yeah, well, they said it was actually the report said.
So just getting the report on the latest from the speech. How do you pronounce his name? Khanamani? How do you actually pronounce his name? Anyways, the Islamic Republic emerged. He says that the Islamic Republic emerged victorious, Zionist regime almost collapsed. We delivered a hard slap to the America's face.
So true. That's amazing, Cove. Amazing, Cove, isn't it?
Like,
I mean, the American part especially.
It's just... I don't even know why people are protesting the war. Like, Israel was happy to keep going against them. They are saying they're beating Israel, so why were there people rallying on the streets?
Why did they want it to end?
Exactly. Why'd they run to Trump?
They were winning. They were winning.
It could have been very, they don't know. I mean, they did a report. I could have Pete talk to it because his department did the report. They really don't know. I think Israel's going to be telling us very soon because Bibi is going to have people involved in that whole situation. We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration. When you take a look at the ground above, don't forget the flame is all underground. But everything above, if you look at the before and the after picture, everything above is burned black. The trees, everything. There's one building, but that's a building that sunk substantially into the granite, so that the fire goes right over it. It was, I believe, it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken 2 weeks, maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming, and if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there. There aren't too many people that are going to be down there. Pete, do you have something to say about that?
Well, Mr. President, when you talk to the people who built the bombs, understand what those bombs can do, and deliver those bombs, they landed precisely where they were supposed to, so it was a flawless mission.
Flawless.
Right down where we knew they needed to enter, and given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation underneath Fordo. And the amount of munitions, 6 per location, any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives. And we know that because when you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence. All right, so this is you make assessments based on what you know.
They said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated. So this is a political motive here.
Is there a leak investigation?
Of course, we're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
We had a tremendous success, and this is the New York Times. I call it the failing New York Times. It's going to hell. And CNN, which, as you know, very few people are watching. And you would think they'd do the opposite. You would think they'd want to say, this was an unbelievable success. And the thing that hurts me is it's really demeaning to the pilots and the people that put that whole thing together, the generals. That was a perfect operation. And when you look at the holes, and this was done from 52,000 feet, there was no moon, there was no light, and those 3 holes are right together. And also, and nobody talks about this, we shot 30 Tomahawks from submarines, in particular one submarine, but that was 400 miles away. And every one of those Tomahawks hit within a foot of where they were supposed to hit. Took out a lot of buildings that Israel wasn't able to get. We took them out with Tomahawks. We don't even talk about that. This was a devastating attack, and it knocked them for a loop. And, if it didn't, they wouldn't have settled. If they had won, if we didn't take it out, they wouldn't have settled. Somebody mentioned that to me last night. If that thing wasn't devastated, they would have never settled. Marco, do you have something to say?
No, first of all this stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt. But now we know where it is, and if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says. Against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no way Iran comes to the table if somehow nothing had happened. This was complete and total obliteration. They're in bad shape. They are way behind today compared to where they were just 7 days ago because of what the president did.
Marco, can I just alert you to one other aspect? So the great thing is you took out the nuclear capability of Iran. This was crucial. You did it in a way which is extremely impressive. But the signal sends to the rest of the world that this president, when it comes to it, yes, he is a man of peace, but if necessary, he is willing to use strength, the enormous strength of the American military. So I think that signal to the rest of the world, this is far beyond Iran, is extremely important. So let me also point us to that aspect of what happens.
They went down, Iran went down to the site afterwards. They said it's so devastated, and they settled when they saw what we did to it. And frankly, if we didn't do that, they would have had a lot of ammunition to keep going. They wouldn't have settled. Somebody brought that up, and 2 Iranians went down to see it, and they called back, and they said, this place is gone. So it's just fake news by CNN, which has got no ratings. It's a failed network. Anybody here from CNN, by the way? Because you're a really disgraceful network. MSNBC, I think, is actually worse. But they're all pretty bad. But yours is good, Katie, I'll tell you.
He is very good.
You know what Marco reminded me? He did such a nice job there. It was 9 years ago I had to debate this guy. It was not easy. I think he even got better. But when you were into your little thing, I said, this is when I had to debate this guy. You think it's easy to debate him? It's not easy.
How long do you think that the Iranian nuclear program has been put back by these strikes? Years or totally obliterated?
I think basically decades, because I don't think they'll ever do it again. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to take their oil, they're going to have some missiles, and they'll have some defense. I think they've had it. I mean, they just went through hell. I think they've had it. The last thing they want to do is enrich. They've been trying to do it. By the way, it's hard to enrich. And, you know, when you look at a site like that, very, very hard to build. Very, very hard, very expensive. They spent trillions of dollars trying to do this thing, and they didn't come up with it. And we're actually getting along with them very well right now. But had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
Mr. President,
yeah.
If the Iranians do rebuild, would the United States...
If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I've also
Sure.
a question about
But I'm not going to have to worry about that. It's gone for years. It's very tough to rebuild because the whole thing is collapsed. In other words, inside, it's all collapsed. Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see a room that has, 10 million tons of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
Can I ask you a question, Avi?
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable...
I want to ask you a question, Avi. What do you think potentially of the argument that Trump forced the ceasefire in Israel too soon? Because I've seen some people criticize.
So from Israel's perspective, 100%. I agree. From Israel's perspective, I think that they would have loved another week or two. And also even from the Iranian opposition, the people that want to rise up and rebel, I know a lot of Iranians are saying that they just needed, who knows? They say another week, but who knows, right? But from Trump's position, I absolutely get why for him domestically, this was genius. And you know what? And from also looking at it from here in Australia, where I love Israel and I care about my family and my people and all that. As long as it's true that they've destroyed their nuclear capabilities, or at least set it back by a long time, so there's no real threat of that. And now we've gotten to see, I think Israel's also, like talking to my family in Israel, people have realized, okay, now we know what Iran's capabilities are with ballistic missiles. And it's like we know that we can handle a war. You got to understand, for 20 or so years, even when 30 years, like when I served in the army there, which is 20 years ago, the looming big fear was not another war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, and definitely not Gaza. It was always Iran. Iran was his fear, and what their capabilities are. And I think this one, like people in the first couple of days were really scared. And I think in the last hours of the war, there was some real damage, and that's what people expected the entire campaign to be like. The weeks of that of kind of the last couple of hours, it just didn't. And to be honest, a lot of the deaths that had happened were either malfunctions in the alarm systems, so they just and people also just got tired of them. To be honest, I think people got, even when I was there in the Gaza one, right after October 7, like those rockets were far less scary than the ballistic missiles. But at some point you just go, how many times can I run into a safe room a day? But most of the casualties and injuries were people that just weren't in their bunkers. And in Israel, especially new build, you cannot build without a bunker. Every house has a bunker.
It's a little bit like that. It's a little bit like that with the Ukrainians. A lot of the Ukrainians have. I've talked to so many people in Ukraine where there's so much fatigue when it comes to running to the bunkers. So a lot of people just stay in their beds, and past a certain point, it can become very dangerous doing that. It's very hard. But you're so right though. Like Iran was the big fucking enemy, and they were exposed as a paper tiger.
Exactly. But they won, guys. They won.
Hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum.
Look at him. He points at him. Look.
CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum.
Oh my God.
They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally. and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit, and they say it was total obliteration. And, you know, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings, the place is dying. Nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
And then just changing gears to your meeting with Zelensky later today, can you give us any preview of what the two of you might be discussing?
No, well, we'll discuss the obvious. We'll discuss his difficulty. He's got a little difficulty. Zelensky, he's a nice guy. I mean, I'm going to meet him today. I don't know. I assume we're going to be discussing Ukraine.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like the most likely subject.
Any restart talks there or anything that you might do?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I've spoken to Putin a lot, and he actually was very nice. He volunteered help on, as you know, on Iran. I said, no, I don't need help on Iran. I need help on Russia. Okay? I said, do me a favor. Help us on Russia, not on Iran. But he was very nice. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. I think progress is being made. I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I think we're going to have some very good news. I was talking to Steve Witkoff, who, by the way, is terrific, and who knows more about this subject than anybody, the subject of what we were just talking about. He was on last night with Jesse and with Laura and with Sean. And boy, Susie, he has a great take on it. He just explains it so easily. He's really very knowledgeable. But he did tell me that Gaza is very close.
One follow-up on Iran. Both you and Secretary Rubio and Hicks have mentioned the weekend. But can you clarify, is the intelligence correct or is the intelligence wrong?
Well, the intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take that we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration. And you'd think that a media outlet would say, isn't that a great thing? I mean, more importantly for the pilots, for the military, you take their guts out. You take their absolute guts out. They had a tremendous attack. It was a complete obliteration. The other team, the other group, Iran, said, let's stop this. And you know what? Israel said it too. Very smart. They fought like hell, and then they said, let's stop. And they're going to build themselves. And I really see it as sticking. I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
I think we have to join the others.
Yes, we're going to join some other group. Yes, thank you. Katie, one
last question. Do you believe that
she's so good. That's the only reason I take.
Thank you, Mr. President.
She used to be very difficult. Go ahead.
Do you believe that this strike on the Iranian nuclear program will lead to the release of the hostages in Gaza?
I think that it helped a little bit. It showed a lot of power. Yeah, I think it helped. But we're going to get separately, even before this, we were very close to making a deal on Gaza. I think this helped, yes. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Avi, I think I might have to head, man. But thanks so much for having me on.
You're all good, mate. You're all good.
Thank you. It was a great chat. It was good fun. Good fun.
See
we'll have to do another. Thank you, guys.
I wonder what happened there. That was an emergency, sudden emergency there.
No. Just I gotta get going with the family and whatnot. But thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us, mate.
See you guys. Bye.
See you, mate.
So, what I found the funniest, I didn't watch that press conference, but the one that made news in all of that was literally the last minute or last 30 seconds was the daddy. It's funny that he referred to him as daddy. Anyways, the
White House is really gone with it as well. I don't know if you saw, they put out a whole video when Trump returned to America with a daddy song in the background. So.
It was that I guess press conference was pretty funny, where he takes every opportunity, but I think he's right about the fact that they're attacking him for what should be, it should be celebrated as a success. Now, I know he's talking it up, but it'll be interesting to see what the Israeli intelligence report actually does say. Because it's as much as Israel.
I think there was a statement today from the Israelis regarding it in the morning from Benjamin Netanyahu around that. And it was very interesting. He said, I don't know if you caught on to that, but that they were on the ground after the attack. So
Yeah,
whether
the Israelis.
Israelis or Mossad or the armed forces, I don't know, but that's very interesting. He says the Iranians were there to check it out after, the Israelis were there. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to assume that the intelligence agencies in America know from their coordination with these other groups and their negotiations, as well as what the President of the United States of America would know in his talks with these people as well, through his advisors and the people who are negotiating directly. To assume that the media can look at these 2 satellite photos or 3 satellite photos that have been released of the craters and, you know, what however you want to term it, and then come to this assumption that nothing's happened underneath without any evidence whatsoever counteracting that. I mean, that intelligence report that they have doesn't say anything conclusively. So I think that was Trump's point. As far as they're concerned, it's been wrecked. So it's very interesting how the fake news media has latched onto this one point. And you'll see all the people who are against Trump and Israel to a greater extent are using these CNN, BBC articles and being like, aha, see, nothing happened, you know? It just gives ammunition to stuff that really, you would think that the Iranians would be, you know, out there doing that initially. Even they weren't doing that. It was these outlets that were talking about there not being sufficient damage, and how on earth would they know?
It's funny you say that, because now Khamenei, or however you pronounce his name, is suddenly saying he won. Maybe he got the idea from CNN. Maybe he got the leaked report from CNN.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of feeds into it, doesn't it? That all works for them, because then they can show their audience, when they're showing propaganda to the Iranians on TV, look what the CNN and the BBC
well,
are saying.
They were putting Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes during the actual 12-day war. Now they'll be playing CNN.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
100%.
So got a couple of super chats, and I think we'll just pivot to the couple of Aussie stories that we have and call it a night. Jeremy says, hi, Avi. Just wanted to know what exactly was Bibi's reason as to why Israel didn't guard the border on October 7. Just wondering to know the reason stated. So I'm assuming you're talking about the Gaza border. We've talked about this before in depth on previous shows, but I think after the war, what people need to understand, Israel is a thriving democracy, no matter what leftists and Islamists tell you. And one thing that's definitely going to happen at the end of this is a proper parliamentary inquiry, which is going to have all sorts of powers to dig deep into what the failures were. If you're asking my opinion based on the fact that I served on that exact border and knowing what was happening at the time with nephews in the army and cousins in the army and knowing also politically what was happening on the ground, what I'll say to you is there was compounding factors as to why there wasn't much backup, because what was missing on the day was actual backup to support the technology that's on that border. So basically, if you come close to the fence, it raises all sorts of alarms. When you touch the fence, it raises another alarm. So I used to work on that exact border, and when something touched the fence, it basically sent to the operation Tatzpiot. Those are the girls, like all those ones that got butchered, and some of them kidnapped. They're in these rooms with screens and they can see. So basically it tells them at this point there's somebody touching the fence, and then cameras zoom in. And this is 20 years ago, so it's probably a whole lot better now, or it was better. And then they call in somebody to come to the forces to come to that position and to deal with whether it's a threat, or sometimes it was literally people with white flags that were coming almost like refugees, and then the intelligence Shin Bet would come in and take them, and that was out of our thing of duties. Now, what I believe happened on that day, firstly, it was a Jewish holiday. You got to remember, Jewish holidays, forces are always, unless there's an imminent threat, they always have the least kind of forces that they need, so that soldiers can go back and be with their families for the Jewish holidays. So that was one issue. Two is, at the time, there was a major focus in the West Bank, and most of the army resources were placed in the West Bank because there was dramas there, and they didn't look at at the Gaza border as a major threat because of the technology that's there. So they assume in the West Bank you don't have that. You don't have the fence like that, and that you don't have that technology. It's different technology, but not to this extent. Like, it's not one clear border. So there are Jewish towns, Palestinian towns. So it's much harder to kind of control and to protect. So on the Gaza border, they relied on that, and then they would have like one or two vehicles come to that point and basically deal with whatever the threat is. And it's something that could be handled by a very small amount of forces. That's what they thought. They didn't know that there was an imminent threat and a massive attack planned. And so it took a couple of days, firstly, to get the word out, like physically to let people know to come back, because people don't even have their phones on these Jewish holidays, a big portion of the country. So getting forces to come back to base on the holiday, and then basically it took a few days until things were like there was actually real fighting back. The people that were fighting back on October 7 and October 8 into October 9 were actually local police, local armed, off-duty military, and certain special forces units that managed to get this really quickly. The bases that were actually the main base, at least in the part of the fence that got breached at that point next to Kfar Aza, that got destroyed and that was my base. That was in that one got, the soldiers got butchered in there. So I think it's a bunch of compounding factors, but what I'll tell you is I can promise you after the war ends, there's going to be a proper investigation and proper reports, and everything's going, or, a vast majority of it, especially the failures, are going to come out. And it's not exactly Bibi. Bibi doesn't really control unless he directs a war, unless he declares a war or some sort of big mission. It wasn't really him that was controlling where the military was stationed. It was based on threat assessments. Anyways, that was a long answer, but
I think the concerns that somehow the BB and stuff will interfere with investigation. You have to know, like, he's someone who's currently under investigation himself. So there are forces within Israel's democracy, which is very similar to kind of America, where Trump was, impeached and they're trying to put him in jail. All the same things are happening in Israel. So I think there will be people who want to, even to try to blame him, who will be looking for every single shred of evidence or answer that they can to hold people accountable.
It was funny to see Trump's
reports like this from the
Did you see Trump's? Today. He just loves kicking balls all over the place. Like, you know what? I just tell people on both sides of it, just chill. Like, stop hanging on every word that Trump says about Israel and Palestine. Just judge him by his actions, and his actions have been consistent the whole time. Gap, thank you again for another super chat. Says, what's your opinion on Alex Jones or Tucker? Alex Jones, first, we've talked about it a lot, but Alex Jones, I think that he just says a lot of shit. He's just, you know what? Look at in both these cases, look at legal cases they've been in recently and what they say about themselves or their text messages. I think they give you the best indication of who they are. Alex Jones is a showman. He's what's called an entertainer more than anything. I don't think he believes 90% of what he says. He's right every once in a while, and then he basically points to that, and everyone points to that to show how right he is. Tucker, well, he started all the way on the left. Remember, he was CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Then he started his own thing, and it was this journey. He went from, a real lefty, more progressive, calling out people like him now, and then just becoming that now. I have zero respect for him anymore. In fact, I have zero respect for either of them anymore. And yes, have they done good work before? Yeah, I used to be a fan of Tucker. Yes, not anymore. I was a fan of him when he was on that part of it. So his journey's gone like this, and when he was, center right and still normal. And actually seemed principled, but that's the thing. That's like kind of what do they call it? When you like somebody because they're saying what you believe in. It's confirmation bias. It was probably like confirmation bias for me, and I think I've learned a lot in the last year and a half to 2 years to look at somebody and just go, okay, I can hear people who talk about all, range of things and listen to what they're saying, hear their arguments, and then, and even, even if I disagree with it, you just try to unpack it a bit more fairly in my own head, because don't idolize anyone, and you can listen to people on certain issues and try to understand people's motives, to be honest. Like, try to critically think about why somebody's being a contrarian like Candace Owens now. Is there a broader thing at play? Like, not is it that they're getting paid, they must be getting paid. Like, there's also just personality. What do you reckon, Rukshan? Do you have a...
Yeah, I mean, people are very critical of me, just as a basic example. People are very critical of me just because of my association with you. That is enough for them to be critical of me. So when you look at someone like Tucker or Candace and the things that they're saying and the way that they've changed and the connections and the links that they have, you should also be critical of these individuals and these people as well. Alex Jones, I think he comes across as someone who's not necessarily influenced by different things. I think that's just him as an entertainer, and that's why he goes in so many different directions. Sure, he's got certain backing from certain groups and certain people, but I don't think it's ever influenced him as such. But someone like Candace, I think she holds she holds grudges. Tucker is also someone that's become a bit more vindictive. He pretends he doesn't know people that he knew before. He pretends he doesn't know people that he liked before and thanked before. So
pretends he doesn't understand English at points.
That as well. So those kind of cues give it away that there's something more that's driving their particular view and opinion. So yeah, that's what I think. But I think if you want to watch more thoughts on that, we went I think 2 hours on the previous opposition podcast.
Yeah. Go check out the last episodes. Yeah, go catch up. You can catch up on all the episodes either on our YouTubes or even the opposition.show, www.theopposition.show. Nocturnal Observer says it was down there and the site is a radioactive waste now. I don't know how that all works, but I would imagine, like, if they got radioactive stuff in there and you blew it up, surely you wouldn't want to go down there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there is
maybe
much to...
Would you offer?
I was going to say, it's been so simplified by the media. Like, I was they bombed a mountain with bombs that go inside of the mountain.
Yeah.
No one else has these kind of weapons except the United States of America. So they would be best placed to know how effective it was. But yeah, time will tell, I guess, on some of the other.
I like how they're relying on the Israeli Mossad to go down there, because the Americans are like, no, we ain't got that. We'll do it from up there. You send Moshe.
I don't want to get conspiratorial, Avi, but there was those images of those trucks a couple of days before that they were showing on the media, and it's interesting. Like, those trucks were there; they're being monitored. What were those trucks doing? Who was in those trucks? I mean, those are legitimate things that you can kind of speculate about, because we don't know. So it's open to speculation. But it's possible the Americans might be, doing a forward operation there. Who knows? We'll find out a lot of this stuff later on. I'm purely speculating, but those are things you can speculate on. But the bombing itself, once it happens, once you have those type of weapons which are being used, which have been tested in America, and you know the effects of it, once they say this is the effects of it, until they can prove otherwise, which is the Iranians actually going there, filming themselves in the bunker and saying, hey, look, everything's fine. Until then, you got to take the word of the Americans, because there's nothing else to go on besides people looking at satellite images. And, it's just what it is. I'm not saying to believe the government and the military at face value each time, but as it stands currently, that is the best intel that's available, and that's through the words of Donald Trump and what he knows.
Ebony, thank you again for a super chat. Says Trump is a comedian masquerading as a businessman, masquerading as a politician. Yes. Yes, he is. Like, I could sit here and watch if we weren't kind of like on a kind of have a timeline, a deadline to finish the show. I would probably not watch his show sped up like that, or at least slow it down in a lot of parts, because he is genuinely just naturally funny. And even Drew, who had to run away, he has to admit that Trump is funny, even though he doesn't really like Trump. Okay, so let's pivot now to the Aussie thing. We've got the. Do you want to give background about the eSafety commissioner. She gave a what is it? It's Meet the Press or whatever.
Oh yeah, Meet the Press. Julie Iman Grant, one of the most favorite people in Australia, I think, at least in her mind, at least. The bureaucrat, unelected, the censorship czar, and I think most people call her E. Karen, which could get you in trouble one day in Australia.
SakiKaren.com. And yeah, I think she knows she's not that popular. She's just going to make it illegal to say it.
Yeah, exactly. But she's come out now. You know, we had the under 16s ban, social media ban.
Is these? I think I've got a couple of the videos. We'll just watch what they're saying.
How confident are you that the technology exists now to make the ban meaningfully effective, or the delay meaningfully effective come December?
I think we've seen huge growth and maturation and sophistication, as I mentioned, of the 53 that are being tested by the age assurance technical trial that's being run by the department through the age certification checks scheme. All 53 of these technologies utilize some form of AI. So it's kind of an innovation hotbed. So in addition to some of the facial age estimation tools, there's one that uses a lot of medical science about ligaments and ligature, which is a biometric. So it asks you to make different signals with your finger, and it can give you a basic age. And that would be very difficult to re-identify. You know, I don't know what the final scoring or accuracy rates will be on those, but what I'm saying is we're seeing innovation happening here. The more that governments are demanding effective age assurance, the more I expect the industry will start investing and innovating in these areas. So it's kind of exciting when you think about it.
Exciting. That's not my reaction to that idea. I have two reactions. You tell us what you think. I think one, that sounds very scary. The idea that they're going to start, they're going to rely on technology and industry to create technology to essentially scan kids to be able to do an age verification. That's what people were worried about. But also, I also feel like it's just nonsense, and kids are going to get around that, whether that means there's going to be a million ways to get around it. And what about ones that get it just wrong? What if there's it's just relying on technology like that sounds concerning but ineffective. What do you reckon?
Yeah, of course. I mean, she's talking about some system where they measure their hands and stuff like this. I mean, someone else can put their hand, it's a bit bigger, or an adult hand, and help the kid get access to social media. So what? But I think the bigger problem with all of this, Avi, is something that a lot of people were afraid of when this kind of social media ban for children comes in, is that these systems eventually require adults to participate as well. So the rest of us have to enroll ourselves in this type of surveillance system, whether it's kind of giving biometric, facial, whatever they decide to do. See, they're testing a whole heap of technology. She hasn't decided yet which one's, the one that's going to be implemented. I don't know if she has the final choice, but it's got to come down to something which is invasive and another layer that the government has over you when it comes to accessing stuff that we've been accessing now for decades and decades without doing this, without any really major issues whatsoever. I mean, come big, terrorist events or something like this, they can go back in and search for things and do stuff like they can get warrants, whatever. But in terms of just freely accessing the internet and not having these governments have access to our own biometric data and things like this, it's never really been an issue for us to access the internet. So I think that's where the slippery slope is in terms of the surveillance state, and these type of bans, which seem like have nothing to do with the rest of us and just protecting kids. Well, ultimately, it impacts everyone in society. So,
and we're already saying,
this all comes on.
Yeah,
I was going to say this all comes on the back of the fact that she pushes the goalposts and the boundaries. So when that media ban came in. Yeah, initially it was about TikTok and Instagram and I think Facebook and a few others like this, right? X. Now, maybe not X. I think that's the age is different for X. But now she has come out after seeing some studies and said, actually, we've got to add YouTube to this as well. It was initially exempt, but now she's saying that YouTube is actually very harmful for kids as well, despite the fact that kids go on there to access all types of educational material. We've got little kids on, parents put TV shows on for their kids to watch and entertain themselves and also learn things as well. So now we've got E. Karen, who's unelected, now deciding, actually, we're going to add YouTube as well. So what's next? What's the next thing that she adds onto it?
And they say, and YouTube's arguing that they're not a social media, they're a streaming service, which is going to be an interesting court case because they're going to fight, and YouTube's going to. Google has, they have the resources, and they definitely don't want something like this taking hold because it's not even just the Australian market. They know that once it happens here in Australia, it gets exported somewhere else, so they will fight it. But how would that even work? Because YouTube, you don't have to be logged in to stream videos. It's a bit like TV. You don't have to, you know what I mean? You got free to air.
I see the internet as a place that would fundamentally change as a result of this coming into play. I don't know if straight away they would implement it, but slowly they would add more barriers to the way that we freely access information. So it might require all adults in Australia, if you want to access the full YouTube, you now have to be logged in, completely logged in. It's already like that for some videos where you have to be over 18, so you're going to be logged in. But I'm saying in general, like these services might become very closed off just in Australia.
All that's going to happen, I can predict what's going to happen. If you make it harder to use YouTube, everybody's going to find another platform, and then they're going to have to fight some random other website and fight that to implement it and include it on. That's all that's going to happen because, the videos that you have to be over 18. Like, I don't even upload videos like that because it just cuts your viewership straight away. It's just annoying. Like I save those for Pornhub.
Yeah. And kids are resourceful. When we were younger, there would be way to get like bootleg stuff, whatever. It was happening, right? You had access to things. Kids, they have their compatriots overseas that are, fellow music people, whatever, and they have access to these TikToks and stuff like this. Of course, the kids in Australia, they're smart enough to figure out ways to access the same material. It might not be on platforms which are monitored by the government, which is then where it gets dangerous because then you're going into dark areas of the web that might not be regulated at all, where now children are hanging out, maybe in chat rooms, maybe in other devious areas where there is no oversight whatsoever by even companies that have policies to protect children. So that's the danger that we're going into with a policy like what Karen has come up with, which is totally Orwellian. It's something, of course, her being an American, someone who's worked in the White House, I believe. I even heard previously in the CIA at one point, or had an internship, something like this. She comes from the land of freedom, and she comes from a country where there's this battle for the idea of free speech, and it's very highly enshrined and protected, including for children to be able to express themselves and have access to information, especially educational material. All that stuff is very protected in the United States of America. And here she is in Australia, where we don't have these protections. All of a sudden, she's calling all the shots and deciding on a whim, oh, no, we're going to add YouTube now. So this is where the problem is, and I think this is why lots of Australians are against what she's doing, and she's very unpopular. She comes across as an elitist, someone who's above the people. She pretends to care about the kids as her cover. They always need some sort of cover to protect the things that they're pushing on us and what they're doing. Yeah. And she's very effective at it.
Like what's his name? Like what's his name that you said earlier?
Like we just watched. All right. Yeah. So, but we don't. Labor and Liberal, none of they're just going along with it as well. So it's not like there's a political will and a political force to deal with her. No, she has carte blanche right now in terms of the social media platforms in Australia, at least. And of course, in the future, it could be other things which are added to it as well. Because when it comes to children, the argument is, well, we have to do everything possible to protect them, which most people would agree with. But there is this kind of balance that we have to have when it infringes on all types of other freedoms as well. So, yeah, I think it's a very interesting time we're going into, especially because I think this is meant to come out in December. So it could be a failure. The government's had previous programs like this where they've dramatically failed and they've scrapped it. Let's wait and see. But hopefully there's some pushback.
Cruel Intention, thanks for the super chat, says, Karen, bullshitting. No biometric AI could detect someone 1 week before turning 16 or 1 week after. It will be digital ID. And I tend to agree with you. Thanks, Cruel Intentions again. Did I say Cool Intentions? Cruel Intentions. I'm freaking tired tonight. Appreciate the super chat, but I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Let's watch this.
Olivia Island from the SMH and the Age. Thank you, Commissioner, for your speech. A part of the Trump administration's push for free speech has said that they've threatened retaliation against people who impinge on online speech. Are you concerned about being able to return to the US yourself, or what might happen if you were to go to the US?
Well, I guess the way I look at the Online Safety Act, and next week we are experiencing our 10-year anniversary. We were created by a democratically elected parliament as an independent statutory authority. The laws that we administer through the Online Safety Act are passed by the parliament and the thresholds. My goal is to help Australians have safer, more positive experiences online. And yes, we're dealing with difficult issues around speech. We're not regulating regulating DEI. We're not regulating political content, opinions, journalistic content. This is purely about harm targeting Australian individuals. So with cyberbullying, it's menacing, harassing, intimidating, and threatening content that's targeting a child. It's much higher where adults are concerned. We have to prove serious intent to harm and that it's menacing, harassing, and offensive in all cases to an ordinary, reasonable person. That is such a high threshold above defamation. We've only used our formal powers 6% of the time. So we also have transparency and accountability.
What does that even mean? Like, I've received stuff from them. Everyone's received stuff. We've only used it 6% of the time we've used our high threshold powers. 6% of what? What are the actual numbers? Like, you guys, she's a wannabe tyrant, but she's not answering the question. If she's deflecting. Oh well, it's illegally. It's like, okay, but if they want to punish you, you're an American.
She's very good at. She's very good at throwing people off what she's doing.
Accountability requirements. So you can challenge a decision that I make. You can challenge it through internal review, through the ART, through the ombudsman, or through the federal court. And that is starting to happen, and that's legitimate. The more the powers and how we administer them are tested, the more we can look to Delia Rickard's excellent Online Safety Act review and start implementing some of the changes. No bill is going to be created that doesn't have flaws or doesn't anticipate technology moving 20 times faster than probably 20 million times faster than any legislation can. So I actually see what we're doing as protecting Australian voices online, because it is those who are most vulnerable that tend to be targeted online, and we don't take action unless there is an Australian on the other end that's experiencing hurt and harm at a considerable level.
So no concern if you were to enter the US?
I'm not planning on going to the US anytime soon. I'll defer to my DFAT colleagues to see whether or not they see risks.
Thank you.
I hope they lock her up when she goes there.
I'm sure definitely arrested. Get ICE involved.
But yeah, she's just such nonsense. It's about protecting us. It's like COVID. It's the same exact language and the complete lies. They're in court for the craziest things at the moment. Billboard Chris. They're in court for the case that she lost against Twitter. Like, she is a wannabe tyrant. She does want to control the internet. All the cases that she's in court for is for censorship of political speech. She says that that's not what they're doing, but that's exactly why they keep getting taken to court. And so far, they're losing.
Yeah, of course. And this is someone who we know by previous words and statements on her work, especially when she was working at X or Twitter formerly as the head of safety. This is someone who's tried to implement these programs and had some type of success in the past as well in doing this. But now she's doing all of this at the behest of the Australian people with the awesome power that comes with being a bureaucrat backed by the Australian government. So she is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. We should be afraid of her and the things that she's doing, because it's almost as if she's not accountable to anyone. The government kind of hides behind the fact that she's independent of them in a way to push these things through as well. So it works for both sides. And I think that's why they keep her around, and they can keep pushing and implementing different changes to how we access information in Australia, whether it be, social media for children. And she says that, it won't impact political opinion and news and things like this. It's already happened with Billboard Chris, like you mentioned. Like, that is to do with political views about a certain topic that, for some reason, a Canadian can't speak about things which are happening in Australia because it offends someone here. It's crazy stuff. So very frightening, very Orwellian, and start of something, I think, which is going to take a lot of hard work, maybe decades into the future, to wind back when we realize just how bad this choice is for this country's future.
Okay, last but not least, I got one more story making news in Australia. Let's have a quick watch here.
Venue her predecessor snubbed, the new Liberal leader picks a new path for her party.
This is a different era. I have a different tone, a different team.
Susan Lee offered a frank assessment of the coalition's crushing defeat.
We didn't just lose, we got smashed.
And started the process of figuring out why ordering an election post-mortem.
Our problem at the last election was not that we were too right-wing. People didn't know what we stood for.
After back-to-back defeats, a second sweeping review will seek to answer that very question, delving into a far deeper dilemma.
To have a deeper look at the existential issues we face,
including why women are turning away from the party. Susan Lee making it a priority to get more women into the party room, even open to quotas if state branches back them.
I'm the first woman in my position, and I don't believe anyone in my position has had the resolve that I have right here, right now. Watch this space.
I believe that quotas are necessary as a short-term circuit breaker because what we're doing at the moment hasn't worked.
The task ahead of Susan Lee is monumental, cleaning up state branches riven with factionalism and arresting a steep decline in party membership. More immediately, she needs to resolve some simmering tensions in her party room. To that end, she's set up a working group to steer the coalition's policies on energy and emissions reduction and to resolve the big question of net zero. Susan Lee.
Just like a side point, why the heck is she filming in that place with such a bad echo? Like, it wasn't. What doesn't it?
Maybe they hired Benji for the day.
Benji, seriously, why are you working for the ABC now? Oh, that's so weird. You guys don't realise that the echo in there is going to drive me nuts. Anyways, this is so
vowing
nuts.
to keep a sharp focus on domestic violence too.
I understand the pain that comes with coercion and control because I have felt that pain too.
On some policies, it's personal. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
She's so unconvincing.
We are done. We are so... The Liberal Party is so cooked, like...
Yeah, when you're going to have think tanks and workshops to figure out like who you are as a party, like you're in pretty dire state when that's your like offensive message. I mean, it has to be like something like Trump, very clear, few key policies which are very consistent, and this is what he stands for, and this is what he believes in, and this is now what he's going to push the party towards. I mean, that's the kind of leadership you want. Even that
ignore
New York.
And ignore the noise. Ignore the noise.
Ignore the noise, yeah.
These guys are the opposite. Like, they're driven by the noise. Dude, do you understand now the Conservative Party of Australia is going to implement gender quotas? What? What is conservative about that? So they've lost elections because no one knew what they stood for. So they're deciding to stand for Labor policies. Mazel tov. Yeah. Congratulations, we are cooked. You saw the guy that's going to be the mayor of New York City.
Well, I mean, honestly, he's more convincing. Like you saw the way he spoke, at least about the things that he articulates and believes in. He's more convincing. Like Susan Lee.
You know what? It doesn't matter because you're going to end up be voting for the both. It looks like they're both advocating for the same thing at the end of the day. They're going to be the same.
That's true.
Like, he also wants quotas, I'm sure. He wants quotas for women, 100%. So, this gives me no hope. I have little faith in where we're heading in Australia when it comes to we have zero opposition on a state level. We have zero opposition on a federal level. It's dire. I think we might all just move to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, come to Sri Lanka, guys. It's very good.
It sounds safer there. Listen, mate. I know you've got a
Well,
banana.
definitely, there's no you can go to the shopping centers. There's no people walking around with machetes. It's very safe in that aspect.
And there's no. Are there Palestinian protesters on the streets there?
There is a faction of there's like a very kind of socialist, communist style groups in Sri Lanka. Like it's very kind of a popular movement, and there are groups here that openly support the Palestinian cause. For
No,
sure.
but are there protests blocking the streets and all that?
Not like frequently or anything like that. Not like that. I mean, there's a big Muslim population in Sri Lanka, so obviously they would align with the Palestinian cause. So I mean, there has been marches and things.
I'm
but
more
not,
talking. Yeah.
Not the way that you see in Melbourne. No.
Are there rallies for trans rights?
Here and there. You know what's funny? When I went to my hotel in Colombo, in the capital city, I drove past I was staying next to the Canadian embassy, and the Canadian embassy has a Canadian flag, and they have the trans flag flying very proudly in Sri Lanka. So you're seeing these things kind of creeping in with the foreign governments which come
when I went in Perth,
their views.
When I went in Perth to do my visa prior to the Trump trip, so I had to go to the consulate there or whatever, just because that was the first meeting I could get. And I walk in there, and this was under Biden's period, but there was a big American flag and a trans flag, and I'm looking at it thinking, how is that? Like, well, this is a consulate for America. What does it have to do with trans? It's a cult. It's a religion, and they want their own. They want their own territory. That's what it's about. They want to conquer the world, and that's why you're going to see it more and more. Especially in Australia, we're going to see it because nobody's stopping them. Listen, mate, I'm going to let you get to your holiday. I'm going to get to dinner. I want to thank all the people who tuned in tonight. I know it was. I think we've got to come back to Australian subjects more because. Tonight's audience wasn't as big as, although some of the other subjects, when we focused on the war, we had some massive ratings. I think maybe people's just are sick of seeing you on holiday.
War fatigue, holiday. Let me pull my camera up, Avi. I'll see if I can get it up here. I'll show people like what I'm doing. 1 second. There you go. There's that's kind of where I'm staying. It's just like it's like a forest next to me. A banana forest.
Have you eaten any bananas off the trees? Are they
Not
good?
off the trees. You can see. People you can see there's some growing there. If you can see it there.
Yeah, how funny.
There you go.
Oh, look, he's got the zoom.
I got the zoom happening. So yeah, I mean, look, fruits and food and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing here. Like in terms of that, like I'm really enjoying eating all the delicacies and all the fresh fruit. Like everything grows. Like there's just fruit everywhere, so it's amazing. But there's a heat. I'm struggling with the heat. Like I was actually contemplating.
What's the weather? What's the temperature?
Temperature's probably like. Let me just check. Weather in Colombo. 29 degrees, so 30 degrees.
That's not that hot. It must be humid.
No,
or
but
something.
it's so humid. Like this T-shirt is sticking to me right now. It's
Yeah.
Water. I contemplated when Drew was here. I was going to turn my stream off and say the internet's not working and walk away, just so I can go sit in front of a fan and have a.
You were gonna make me sit through this live stream with Drew.
But then Drew left, and I was like, "Why is Drew leaving?" He bet me to it. He kind of knew.
We'll let you go. Thanks heaps, Rukshan. Till Tuesday, guys. Have a safe weekend. Follow Rukshan on X, on Instagram. Where else are you, Rook? Facebook, YouTube.
Facebook. But yeah, just find me on X, guys. X is the place these days, I think.
And whatever platform you're watching on, make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bells. Love you all. See you on Tuesday. Peace out.
See you guys.